Welcome back to another edition of the Rodcast. Great show playing for you today. Of course, we got a lot of football to discuss. Officially, it is actually, you could argue, the start of the official off season for the NFL, because the Texans are the first team to have all of their players actually report. So we'll get into that too coming up. Man, it's crazy how close football season is. We know that because SEC Media Days also is upon us, and Texas will be in attendance today at SEC Media Day. So big day. Oklahoma had their showcase at SEC Media Days yesterday, so we'll talk a lot about that. We'll also get into some of the other highlights. Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs were also at SEC Media Days yesterday, so we'll get into that discussion. Also, we'll go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment, talk some Texas football. Nick Saban actually he revealed why he doesn't like to coach against Sark and why he wouldn't like to coach against Sark as a defensive coach. And we'll get into that because I think it's actually something that we've dabbled in a little bit on the show, talking about trends in the SEC. This is one of those trends that we were talking about, which Sark actually may have the upper hand going into the SEC. We'll do that when we go behind the burnt orange curtain. Lots of NFL discussion, of course. We'll get into discussion about Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk has requested a trade from the 49ers. We'll dive into that conversation. There's also a NFL story that I think is not getting enough attention. We'll get into that too. As I talked about the Texans, we'll get into some Texans conversation. Also, I want to talk Cowboys. I want to talk a little Dak Prescott on the show, so we'll balance the scales. Always talk Texas, but also talk some Cowboys. We got your usual favorites coming up on the show as well. Who said that? We got what the facts, what the stats. We got off the record. We got the topic for the big fat poll of the day loaded as always for you. Glad you can join us. Before we do any of that, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He's one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. He's got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but I'm pretty damn sure this man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It's our friend, co-host, and neighbor. Oh, it's Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing, brother?
Doing good. We've made it to Wednesday. It is hump day, rolling along.
Hump day.
Texans reporting to camp.
Isn't that crazy?
It is.
You said this earlier this week, and I didn't realize. I was like, he's right.
Yeah, I saw it. I think in the weekend that I saw something that was like the Hall of Fame game, August 1st, and I was like, what? Because we get real football starts end of August is when real football starts.
Football.
But we get to the world of we're actually talking about football and things are happening and players are reporting, and then we'll see that the world, especially for the Cowboys, we've talked about it over and over again, that we believe at camp things will start happening for them.
There's going to be something happening.
So all that should be happening here in the next month. So we're actually getting to it now. But yeah, it was surprising to see that when, I was texting a friend who's big into fantasy football, and I was telling him, I was like, did you realize that it's like August 1st is free? He's like, oh man, I got to start working.
Got to start doing your research. Yeah, I guess. Hey, that's what. Hey, just listen to the Rodcast. We got all types of nuggets for you. Yeah, but you're right, man. I didn't realize that till you said it yesterday, and now I get it because the Texans are the first team to have all their players report to training camp, so it's already under.
And did you get the update on the national anthem? The girl who sang the national anthem?
Yes, you know what? We should address that. We should talk about that as well, since yesterday I was a bit harsh. I was a bit hard on her. I threw out a conspiracy theory, all kind of stuff. I did feel bad when I read it. I was like, oh, man, see? Damn it. All right, so, we'll get into that. We do have to talk about
so that was that, too. Everything went a little bit smoother yesterday, the All-Star game, and then that was the thing that happened. It felt not climactic. It just was.
Yeah. Anticlimactic is a good way to describe it.
It did not feel like much of an all-star game, really. And I know it was like the best players, but it was still, I don't know, the vibe of it did not feel like it was special, really. Maybe I didn't have it loud enough on my TV.
At least Shohei showed that.
He did. Shohei did Shohei things. I'll tell you who does Rod things. My co-host, a proud alumni of DVU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He's the new Rod Father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
Yeah, the MVP Red Sox outfielder, Jarren Duran wins MVP.
Yep.
Ohtani had that 3-run homer in the third. I never watched the entire any All-Star game, whether it be the NBA, the Pro Bowl, whatever the Pro Bowl used to be. and Major League Baseball All-Star Game. I'm not gonna watch the whole thing. I'm a DVR it, then we're gonna fast forward, get some of the highlights, and check it out. I mean, it's not because it's just an exhibition. It's just like you saw about with
Yes.
these preseason games. We're excited because the preseason starting up and training camp. But you're talking about exhibition games for the most part. But you're right. The end of August, we'll actually get a real competitive football. So we'll talk a lot of football, of course, on the show because, SEC Media Days yesterday, Oklahoma and Georgia, two teams that Texas will play. And I want to get into the discussion about Georgia a little bit. Kirby Smart had some. Kirby Smart is very charismatic and dynamic. You can see why he can recruit like gangbusters. You can tell, and he's obviously, a football, basically best football coach in America right now, best college football coach in America right now. But he's obviously a great football coach. But listening to him and getting a chance to hear him kind of hold court with the media, you can tell, okay, he's also got some of that charisma. He's got, he's got some of that special stuff that also you can tell guys want to play for him. And then maybe it's fun to play for him. And so we'll get into that. We'll hear from Kirby Smart because he was dropping some jokes. Took a little shot at Oregon, which is pretty fun. We'll get into that too and hear that sound and audio. Yes, the horns down came up, and I like the stance the SEC has on the horns down. We'll just say that. We won't make a big deal out of it, but they did have their head of officiating clarify any misunderstanding or interpretation of the taunting rule as it relates to horns down. So we'll get into that too. So before we do that, though, before we dive into the topics for the day, let's get into the Horn headlines. Let's get updated. Let's get educated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headline is brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. The MLB All-Star Game took place last night with the American League getting back into its dominant ways after having its 9-year win streak snapped last season. Shohei Ohtani gave the NL an early lead with a 3-run homer in the third inning, but the AL answered back in the bottom with a Juan Soto double and David Fry single to tie the game up. The eventual All-Star Game MVP, Jarren Duran, then hit a 2-run homer in the fifth inning to give the American League the lead and never looked back. From the Rangers, Marcus Semien got a hit and came around to score in the game, and Kirby Yates pitched a solid 1-2-3 inning with 2 strikeouts in the 8th. In the NBA, the Mavericks announced that Kyrie Irving underwent surgery to repair a broken left hand. Irving suffered the injury while training earlier this month. While Dallas did not give a timetable for his return to basketball activities, there is hope in the organization that he will be able to return by training camp in 2.5 months. And in the NFL, the Houston Texans rookies and veterans report today to training camp, making them the first team to have all its players in camp ready to start preparing for the upcoming season. The Texans will play the Bears on Thursday, August 1st in the Hall of Fame game. That is your Horn headlines.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. We appreciate those. Before we get into the SEC Media Days, in addition to the All-Star Game, which we talked about, yes, before the Home Run Derby, the national anthem, which was just a travesty and butchered by the 4-time Grammy nominee country singer Ingrid Andress. And I throw out a conspiracy theory about, hey, man, I think they could have tried to fix it so it's bad on purpose, intentionally, so she could go viral and people would know who she was. My conspiracy theory was dead wrong. And any other conspiracy theory, because apparently she went to social media yesterday to reveal that she was tipsy. She was drunk, and that's why her performance was so bad. Because we were trying to figure out, why is it so bad? That's my theory, was it's so bad she had to do it intentionally. She's a 4-time Grammy nominee, so she is accomplished and she can sing. She needs to carry a note. And there it seems like she was butchered on purpose. I love your Fergie, your Fergie take. Should have Fergied it up a little bit, but turns out that wasn't the case. This is what she put out on social media. I'm not gonna bull blank, y'all. I was drunk last night. I'm checking myself into a facility today to get the help I need. That was not me last night. I apologize to Major League Baseball, all the fans, and this country I love so much for that rendition. I'll let y'all know how rehab is. I hear it's super fun. XO Ingrid. Yeah, there you go. So no conspiracy theories. She was just tipsy. She was just, I don't know, maybe she was nervous. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure she performs in front of big crowds all the time. I don't know, maybe that was a big deal for her. So wishing her the best. So my conspiracy theory about that my conspiracy theory was founded that how could it be that bad? Like, how could you prepare for something like that and it be that bad? Well, if you're just wasted while you're doing it, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well,
makes a
actually,
little more
bad.
sense. Can't hear anything. Makes, wasted.
Yeah,
Just like,
perfect sense. Actually, like, why is it? Yeah. So you know what? There you go. So I'm hoping the young lady gets the help she needs. But now we know who she is. I had no idea who Ingrid Andress was before that. So now, randomly when I hear that name, I'll be like, hey, I remember who she was. So all right. So we'll get into some other topics because also that Kyrie Irving story is really interesting. It was revealed yesterday that he is, well, at least he did undergo surgery for a broken left hand. That came out of nowhere. They didn't reveal what happened either. And it didn't reveal if it happened in the playoffs, which we assume it didn't. How could he?
No, they said it. They said it happened in like training.
Oh, so his own personal training, postseason.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. What was that? They didn't reveal details though. Like
no, they don't. Like, but I mean, yeah,
what
you can
did to it to break it. I mean, that breaking a hand is pretty. I mean, as an athlete, I mean, you got to do something pretty traumatic to break your hand.
I don't know. So I mean, it depends because it depends on how broken it is.
That's true.
But
he had surgery on it.
I mean, there's people with broken hands dunking. Because you just talk about hitting the rim wrong, going up for it, and just like in practice, just going up and hitting in the side of your hand wrong on the rim, and you can break it. You can go up and trying to train, and then drop a weight on it or something like that in the gym. Like there's different ways you can do it. That it's not necessarily anything nefarious.
No, I'm not saying it was anything nefarious or anything. I'm just saying like it's a traumatic thing to break your hand. I was a pro athlete.
Well, it's more that
I played a really physical sport. Never broke my hand.
Yes,
I'm just telling you, it's a traumatic thing. As a pro athlete.
Oh yeah, and especially when
it's not something you do casually. It's not a casual thing.
No.
It was, and in the postseason when guys are usually in vacation mode, it's like, hold up, so are you in super hard training mode? Like when you're training for like what was the what I mean? That's why I wonder because like I said, it's a traumatic event, and you're in vacation mode. You're not in training mode really as a basketball player. Not at this point.
Yeah, but I mean, I think, and that's the thing, like athletes like that, your vacation is probably 2 weeks. Yeah. And so if we say we're a month away, then he's could have vacationed for 2 weeks and been training for 2 weeks too.
No, he could have been, but like I said, I was a pro athlete, trained a lot. Like, breaking a hand is traumatic.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a casual thing. Like you kind of throw it out there, like, oh, it doesn't happen when you just fall. It's something. So I just think these were like, hey, what were you doing that was so hardcore in terms of you breaking your hand? That's all. No details. All right, getting to the SEC Media Days, I want to get to several pieces of audio here. Paul Feinbaum first, because I thought he was sitting down with J.D. Pickle, and I thought he made an interesting comment in regards to Kirby Smart, who was in attendance at SEC Media Days yesterday. And I think he may have hit the nail on the head once again. So here is Paul Feinbaum and talking about Kirby Smart, comparing him to Nick Saban, his mentor.
Accolades aside, how far do you feel like the gap is between where Kirby Smart is right now and ultimately Nick Saban?
I think Kirby Smart, the only reason I can't say this emphatically because I've seen them together, but I think they're the same person, except Kirby Smart was 47 years old? Nick Saban's 72 and working for ESPN. Kirby Smart is the best coach in college football, and he is Nick Saban. I think he's better at his age than Nick Saban was at his age, and I think it's scary. I could give you the crazy, Kirby Smart's going to win more national championships than Nick Saban, but I think he's going to contend with it at some point. He's that good.
Better at, he's actually probably accomplished a little bit more than Nick Saban did at this age because Kirby Smart's 48 now, already has 2 national titles on his resume. I believe Nick Saban got his first national title in his early 50s, but then of course went on the most unprecedented run we've ever seen of greatness and a dynastic run from a head coach at a program. So I don't know if Kirby Smart can do that, but he's off to a better start than Nick Saban was as a head coach. So it and I will say this, listening to him up there, as a matter of fact, do we have this Kirby Smart audio? He's taking a shot at Dan Lanning because they're asking him about, obviously his coaching tree. Dan Lanning was there with him. And he also admitted or revealed that he went to Oregon and met Phil Knight to study Nike. Apparently, he wanted to just study successful companies, successful organizations, find out what habits, traits, from that company made them successful that he could translate to his team and translate to his program. So this is a guy obviously thinking on a much higher level. And so he was talking about Nike and talking about Dan Lanning. Here is the little jab Kirby Smart took at Dan Lanning and at Phil Knight too, actually.
This year, we took Nike, who I've had the great pleasure of meeting Phil Knight and his wonderful wife, Penny, and I wish I could get some of that NIL money that he's sharing with Dan Lanning, but that's another note.
You lost me there in the beginning. You said my NIL what?
The joke about Nike and Dan Lanning.
Oh, yeah, about Dan Lanning having the treasure chest to open up and get whatever he wants. Yeah, but what was your question directly?
Yeah.
I see it's that rumor is everywhere now. That is seen as accepted. It's one of those things, rumors is accepted fact now for people, even though we have no way to prove it. It's not substantiated. People just believe if Oregon's recruiting that well, that it's because Phil Knight has decided, hey, unlimited NIL resources.
Yeah,
nobody knows that's true.
Well, no, but
even the coaches think it's
I think Kirby
possible.
and then some of these other guys that are recruiting the same players probably have a better inclination of every time I'm recruiting, I get a call. Well, they're offering me this, so what can you do? And if I get that call from 7 players and the number is more than I've offered anybody else, what am I like? I can't compete with that.
Yeah, ask Texas. Texas is they've been on the other end of that too. Actually, a couple of times.
Yeah, where so it's we're gonna offer you a really good package. Well, they're offering me $1 million. All right, have fun. I don't know what to tell you. You're not making that much here.
Yeah, no, I mean you may, but you kind of start at a lower.
Yeah.
You got a starting scale, and then you could obviously scale up to that. But if Oregon's starting to, and obviously whatever Oregon's doing is working. Not saying it's all NIL. Dan Lang's a hell of a coach too, and I'm sure they're doing a hell of a job recruiting. And they have, oh man, I got to make sure I get his name right. I don't want to get it wrong because it's a former. It might be. Is it Rashad Samples? I believe. Yes, it is Rashad Samples. He's up there. Remember, he was at Texas at one point, and then he was with the Rams at one point too. I believe it was Rashad Samples. He was with Arizona State. He's bounced around a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. He was in, the state of Texas. Like he's from the state of Texas. So maybe he was at SMU for a while, and I think I think he is a big reason why, and Oregon's been recruiting Texas for a long time, but in terms of their recent successes, because he's a native of Dallas, Texas, which we know the DFW era loaded with talent.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people saying because he just got there too. He just got on the staff. He was at TCU for a while. He got hired by the Rams for a while. I mean, he's bounced around to some different spots. So I wonder. It could just be, of course, we're talking about NIL, but also they're getting some wins and they got some guys, some rainmakers, potentially in recruiting. And from what I hear behind the scenes, he could be one of them dudes.
Yeah, I mean,
he's doing a really good job for him too.
It's only 29.
But he's
moving around that
like
much. But yeah, he's been at Houston, Texas, SMU, the Rams, and Arizona State, and now he's at Oregon.
He's he's a fast riser. I mean, first of all, when Sean McVay's when you're on Sean McVay's radar, then it's like, okay, you know what? That's a little bit different, but I remember him at Texas but it happened quickly for him. And hell, he's if you go look at, I'm looking at his Wikipedia. They don't even really have, Oregon's now listed, but Arizona State, he was there for 2 years right after he left. Why did he leave the Rams? I wonder.
So this is what's crazy is looking at it, how long he spent at some of these places.
Oh,
so he was at SMU.
No,
he goes to TCU. 3 months after joining TCU, he goes to the NFL in the Rams. 6 months after the Rams, while the season's still happening, he leaves and goes to Arizona State.
Like what?
And then they finish the season at Arizona State, and he goes to Oregon. So he's not even he's like a whole season may be too long for me to be somewhere. I gotta keep moving.
Yeah, what is that? That's. Like, does he have an agent? Like, how is that mobility? He's a great networker. I'll just say that.
Man,
anyway,
that dude first day on the job is printing resumes on the printer.
Yeah. He's that he's like, as soon as you hire him, he just puts you on the resume and just starts looking for a new gig. He's like, all right, let's go here. Give him props, man. I got that person every time you see him, they got a new job. You're like, oh, you got another job?
But the more what I meant with 29, when you talk about recruiting and being from Dallas, and he's 29, means he still knows all those coaches. That's not
no doubt.
Like those are the coaches he knows from playing and doing. Like there's not necessarily been a big gap where I played in high school, and all those coaches are now retired, and I don't know, people don't know my name. Everyone knows my name there.
Yeah, you're right. And I think at Oregon he's the running backs coach. What, right? I think
he is running backs coach and assistant head coach
at
29.
Yeah, so he got. I guess that's his promotion. I guess because the assistant head coach thing is what it may be, because he's a reason he's leaving.
Yeah,
he ain't just leaving.
Well, I mean, he was at Arizona State too. So Arizona State.
I know what I'm saying, but I think he'd have stayed.
Left.
Why leave the Rams? Leaving the Rams for Arizona State, he left because he's got I believe the pass game coordinator thing.
I also think that if I remember correctly, the Rams running back core has not been good for a few years, and he was a running backs coach, so he may have been getting some flack in that world.
He was only there for 1 year.
No, that's my point. I'm not blaming on him, but he may have gotten flack for it and been like, I go back to college. I gotta get flack for it there.
You've been there for a year. Anyway, all right. Sorry for that digression from the conversation, but anyway, Oregon's right now recruiting like a juggernaut at the current moment, and even Kirby Smart is recognizing, hey, I'm losing to these guys too. Texas losing to Georgia losing to them. But getting back to Kirby Smart though, this is why it's great to see Sark early on here at Texas get to measure himself up against. We saw Saban last year, and now you'll get him up against Kirby Smart. Saban's considered the GOAT last year, the best coach of all time, and the best coach in college football. And then you got Kirby Smart this season. So we'll get to see, because from the 2 years in a row where he faced Saban, almost beat him in 2022, and then able to beat him on the road in Tuscaloosa in 2023. Just showed the growth for Sark. Kirby Smart's program right now it's on a different level. I mean, it's right now he's at the peak of his program. There were some people that would argue that Bama wasn't at its peak. And I'm not listening. They still won the damn SEC. All right, it's Bama. But there were some people who were arguing that because they had to bring in a coordinator who was largely unproven on the offensive side of the ball, that the coaching turnover had finally started to wither away. It started to kind of, I don't know, it's like decay had kind of set in. Like they didn't have the coaching staff that they once had. Sark obviously being a big example of that at one point Nick Saban was able to walk into living rooms and get the best players in recruiting just because he was Nick Saban. And NIL kind of changed that. Even Kirby Smart just admitted NIL changes that conversation. And a lot of people believe with the changing landscape, that's why Nick Saban decided to move on. So I'm not saying that Nick Saban and Alabama were great. They made the Final Four. But I don't know if it was at the peak of Alabama football. Yeah. Georgia's at its peak. Like there are some people saying that Georgia's going to have, there's 7 guys right now in that among that offensive line unit that are NFL players. He's saying it's the fastest team that he's ever had. And Carson Beck, in terms of upside, is the best quarterback he's had in this dynastic run that they're on. He's got NFL players, at every level of that defense. The defensive end, I think it's Mikael Williams, if I'm not mistaken. I could be a little off about that. He's projected. I think I saw one projection. Jordan Reed had him as the potentially the number 1 overall pick. And then you got Carson Beck, who also as the top quarterback potentially projected in this draft, and that means he could be the number 1 overall pick. So they got that kind of talent. Yes. So that kind of measuring stick, and Texas gets them at home. And by the way, it'll be just like Bama, right? Because I believe the next year you get Georgia again. It's the same schedule, just flipped.
I believe so. But
the SEC schedule, it's the same thing. They just flip them. So you're going to see Georgia. You get to go to Georgia and do it. You did the same thing you did against Bama. But I do think this Georgia team is at more of its peak. And I say that, and then yet Nick Saban on his way out, he took Georgia out. So I'm not saying it's a big difference. I want to be clear in saying I don't think that Bama and Nick Saban were on the downturn or anything like that. They just weren't at the peak of that dynastic run, and Georgia might be at theirs right now. And I think that's the big difference in comparing the two. Also, something about Georgia too that you just gotta appreciate that right now they may have the best offensive line in college football. And that's what Texas is trying to get to. They're trying to be the best O-line. They've been stockpiled from what my man Jerry Hamilton said. He's been told by scouts, yeah, they got seven NFL offensive linemen right now. Maybe not all coming out in this draft, but right now identified 7 of them. Does Texas have 7? Texas might have 3 or 4. I don't know if they're at 7 right now that you can identify. Not saying guys won't get there. So it's just that's going to be a tremendous barometer for Texas going up against Georgia this year.
Yes,
with all that talent and with Kirby Smart, it's a better start to his career than Nick Saban. But also right now you could argue his program may be at its peak. I still remember when Peter Burns, who covers the SEC for SEC Network, he was one of the guys that was covering the spring game for Texas. And he said after watching Texas, they remind him of Georgia in 2021, 2022, and in 2023. That's what he said. He said when they get off the bus, they're monstrous. They're deep at every position. And now they've got a quarterback in Quinn Ewers coming back, and they have a pretty damn good backup in Arch Manning that wowed in the spring game. And even when Nick Saban picked Texas, he also said the same thing. He brought up Arch. Everybody brings up Texas, they're bringing up Arch. And I guess it's important because Quinn hasn't made it through the entire season yet here at Texas, start to finish. But they also have brought up the depth at Texas at that quarterback position. And if something does happen, knock on wood, to Quinn, that the season's not over for Texas, that they got that kind of talent at the quarterback position. Not a lot of teams can say that their starting quarterback goes down. Your playoff hopes and your SEC championship hopes go down the drain as well. All right, so we'll come back. We'll talk some.
I will throw in because a few people mentioned on the text line, Rashad Samples, who we were talking about, his dad is the coach at Duncanville, is what they're saying.
Oh yeah, that helps too.
So that pipeline is is
no doubt. No, but it's great. That's a great point. I did not know that. Thank you guys for that info. It's just the fast rising thing is kind of what we were pointing out.
Yeah, exactly.
How quickly how he hops from place to place, and it's good for him. It's helped his career. That is you see that at times, but even for guys who do it, because Brendan Marion's like that. Brendan Marion was a guy. He didn't stay at Texas long. Brendan Marion didn't stay at any place long. He really is trying to achieve there, put that on his resume, and then rise up to the next stop. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. That's probably how I would be if I became a coach. But even for guys that jump to different spots and they are kind of career hoppers, that his is extreme, as Patrick pointed out. Like he's doing it sometimes during the season. Like, all right, I'm out of here. Like that's I don't see that a lot. That's wild. And I don't hear I'm not saying he's anything bad either, because I don't hear anything negative about him. I only hear good things. He's a hell of a recruit. He's a rainmaker. Like I said, when Sean McVay brings you in, you can coach. And that's pretty. When you get the Sean McVay stamp approval, ain't nothing bad about that. You can coach. You ain't just one of those guys that can network really well. And NFL don't give a damn about how good you can recruit. They don't care.
Yeah.
Your recruiting chops don't mean a damn thing in the NFL. They got a personnel department. They want to know if you can coach ball. Can you coach ball? You know ball. That's what the NFL is about. You know ball.
And also that is one of the best places to get hired out of in the NFL. Everyone gets hired out of the Rams.
I mean,
McVay can't keep
on the Rams. On the Rams offense, even defense too. With the Rams offense, you're working directly under Sean McVay. Yeah, I'm with you on that. But I will say, I do believe they had a long time running back coach at one point. Like he was the running back coach there had been with him because he had more turnover than any other coach. If I'm not mistaken, the guy before Samples had been there for basically, I want to say for Sean McVay since he got there in 2017. Like he had been there with him a long time. Because I remember studying that coaching tree and studying the turnover. I think it was Thomas something.
Thomas Brown.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I think something. Yeah.
He was
right?
there
Am I right about that?
from. He wasn't there that long though.
Oh, he wasn't?
No, he was there though, but he was only there from 2020, 2021, 2022. So he was there for 3 years.
Okay. Yeah.
but he moved
Yeah,
out.
well,
Yeah,
that's okay. So that's all right. All right. Well, I knew he was there for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not sure who was there before that.
and
So
then he went
basically,
to
Sean McVay's had
the
turnover
Panthers
everywhere.
as offensive
Okay.
coordinator.
Okay, so he got hired too. Yeah, everybody gets a promotion from that staff. It's just interesting. Because I was looking at the guys who had stayed with him the most, and I remember thinking like he was one of the few guys that actually been with him longer. Because everybody who was on the staff, they just get hired immediately. And I remember him being one of the guys who had been around for a while. Because
there is somebody else I think that we were thinking of that's been there for a long time. There's
You're
like
right about that.
Yeah, but I mean, Thomas Brown maybe was there. Yeah, there's been a few. I know there was somebody that we were looking at that me and you had looked at, and we're like looking at staff and like 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, 5 years. Like, how's it guys 5 years?
Yeah, I'll have to go check it out. But yeah, no, it's like I said, it's interesting the way that everything's kind of worked out for samples there. All right, thank you guys for the participation. We appreciate it. We'll go behind the burn orange curtain next segment. Nick Saban said at SEC Media Days, this is why he hated coaching against Steve Sarkisian. It's actually something that we brought up last week on the show. One of the trends and patterns that in the SEC, I'm tracking the SEC, that Sark may be already ahead of the game on. They already be ahead of the curve on. We'll talk about that a little bit. We'll also dive into some other SEC Media Days nuggets. I would say this player should be the most offended by one of his ratings on the new EA Sports college football video game. And this is also the same player who I don't think we are talking enough about. And I think at the end of the season, he'll be the guy that we look back on and go, yeah, we didn't talk enough about his impact prior to the season. We didn't talk enough about it, but this guy is going to be extremely impactful. We'll get into that when we go behind the burn orange curtain. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Let's get into some Texas football conversation. Oh, to clear up what we were talking about the Rams, longest tenured assistant with Sean McVay's been there, the wide receiver coach.
Yes,
Eric Yarber.
Eric Yarber. Yes.
Yeah, that's the one we were thinking about.
Been there since 2017.
Yeah, he just likes being a wide receiver coach. He's just damn good at it. So I just don't think he cares about. We just talk about fast risers, guys like Rashad Samples. This is a guy obviously that doesn't care about rising up. That he could, I'm sure, get a coordinator job, or at least has been considered for one. And throughout his years, and no, it's not something that obviously for him that he aspires to be. All right, let's get to some Texas football conversation. I saw this quote come from SEC Media Days. Nick Saban's doing great. He really is. Like, he's killing it. We talked about him yesterday, how he's hitting the sweet spot, some of the hot takes, aggravating and kind of, trolling different fan bases, pretty good. But he's also giving you some real meat, right? Some football nuggets here. And here's what he said in regards to Steve Sarkisian and why he doesn't like coaching against Sark. Talking about the greatest defensive coach in history of college football, greatest coach in college football history. He said, quote, "I kind of always hated playing against Sark. In practice for several years, as well as when we played them the past couple of years, because they do such a good job with what I call squeeze splits. We play in this day and age where people take these huge splits like Tennessee, which that's a problem too. Players, especially DBs, are not used to playing when you have squeeze splits because you put them in unfamiliar positions, whether it's run support or how they cover. When you're in squeeze splits, how can this guy get to that side of the field quickly, which messes up your pattern matches? So I always kind of hated playing against Texas. And Kirby Smart has got some of the same issues that we had. Meaning, basically, we run the same dang defense. It was the same defense, same core principles of defense. And you see what he did to my defensive core principles because he knows them so well because he practiced against them all the time. And squeeze splits. Let me explain this because we literally had a segment about this. This may have been last week. Hell, man. I think it was late last week that we got into this. We were talking about trends in the SEC, conceptual signatures that makes Sark's offense unique. And I got into talking about the football theory of Sark's connection to the McShanahan coaching tree and his time there in Atlanta, following Kyle Shanahan, and then fusing a lot of the core principles, the connective tissue of those offensive philosophies together to form his own. And one of the things I talked about was the formation width, like the formation width of Sark's offense and the offensive formations. If you go look at it, the McShanahan coaching tree, those McShanahan offenses, they often have formations measured in yards. They often have the lowest formation widths in the NFL. We're talking about the Rams. We're talking about the 49ers. You're talking about the Miami Dolphins because they like tight sets, compressed sets, condensed sets. You'll hear me talk about this all the time, compressed and condensed sets. And that's what Sark has a lot of compressed and condensed sets. He calls them squeeze splits, where you're squeezing the wide receivers closer to the line of scrimmage. But last year, if you look at formation width, 49ers, 19.7 yards was their average formation width. That was last in the NFL, lowest in the NFL. The Rams were 31st. They're at 20 yards. Miami Dolphins, they're at 30th in the NFL. They're at 21.2 yards. Then Houston, they're 29th, 21.7 yards. You get it, right? Detroit actually is 28th. First of all, the best offenses in the league. They are the offenses, some of the offenses that decide to use more compressed and condensed sets, but also it is a staple of the McShanahan coaching tree, and that is Sark's favorite coaching tree to gain inspiration. So Sark uses a lot of them. And you can just kind of go back to your mental Rolodex. You can see them in your head. First of all, because he wants to bring the DBs. He wants to force those DBs to be run support, all right, and be forced defenders in run support. And that's what you do when you bring the DBs close to the line of scrimmage. But also, they can't choose their leverage. they have to be outside leverage. You can't be inside leverage if guys tight to the line of scrimmage. If you're in a reduced split or a flex split or a condensed and compressed set, because anyway, that's going to put you right into all the traffic. So you automatically know all your DBs are going to be outside leverage. Very rarely will you get a DB that also tries to play bump and run when you are condensed and compressed sets. You've already dictated a lot of the terms, because if a guy comes to play bump and run, good chance he can get rubbed, get picked, all the traffic, guy running free, wide open. You don't want to take that chance. You don't take that chance often, so they'll back up. So you can have vision to see where you fit in the run game. If you're right up there close, unless you have a direct gap that you're responsible for and you fill that gap, but it's impossible to do that as a coverage defender. All right. Usually you are secondary run support as a coverage defender. Your coverage first. So it just causes, as Nick Saban just pointed out, it causes hell in all types of ways. It disrupts a lot of the the communication and a lot of the principles of defense. Like I said, I have my leverage. It's already dictated for me. I got to be outside leverage. I definitely can't go up and play press and play bump and run like I want to. And then I think I got to chase through traffic. Then I got to worry about traffic too. If he's compressed and condensed, that means, oh man, you could have him run underneath tight end. He could be a delayed release behind another wide receiver. Hell, you could put him in motion behind the line of scrimmage. There's so many things you can do, and I get caught up in traffic as a defender. So also now I got to pay attention to the other defenders around me, because we're not in space. We're in this congested area, and it also creates space on the outside. Because now you got all this room to defend on the outside. You've created a ton of space on the outside. So it gives you a lot of advantages offensively, and it puts the defense, it handicaps the defense in a lot of ways with what they can do. And then, like I said, all it takes is one DB to miss a tackle where he's supposed to, and in his run fit, and you could pop one and break one. So he likes it in the run game because you force DBs to be forced run defenders. And he likes it in the passing game because, like I said, it dictates a lot of the leverage and things like that. So we just talked about that, and I saw that Nick Saban quote, and I went, Nick Saban knows Sark's offense. He knows it. That's one of the things you got to figure out early on. Are you going to pass off those routes and coverage? And then Sark likes those downfield crossers when he has those deep, those compressed and condensed sets. And then you have, as a defense, you got to figure out, are we going to pass off those crossers downfield? Those deep over routes downfield, those rainbow crossers. We're going to pass those routes off, or we're going to have a DB chase them all the way across the field to the other, to the opposite hash and to the opposite numbers. And Sark's receivers can get there because they're fast. And that's why he also likes compressed sets, because his receivers are really fast. So you created space on the outside, and you also have the ability to cross the formation behind the line of scrimmage, or, like I said, even downfield, because you're closer to your work. It creates a lot of issues. And that's why, and Nick Saban saying, hey, Kirby Smart and Georgia are going to have to deal with it too. And one of the trends I pointed out, you don't see it a lot in the SEC. The SEC, they don't have as many tight compressed sets. They don't have as many tight bunch sets. It's actually declining in the SEC. That's one of the trends I pointed out last week. If that's the case, that's something Sark is going to shell shock the SEC with. And maybe you should use more of it, right? Going into an ecosystem where they're not prepared for that, you can totally, disrupt the defensive mentality in the SEC by using more of those condensed and compressed sets, especially when you got now the GOAT telling you, oh, it caused us a lot of issues, and it's going to cause Georgia some issues. So that's something I picked up on, and I love it. If you're a Longhorn fan, you should love that too. Sark's offense in a lot of ways is going to cause problems for SEC defenses. They're not used to pre-snap motion as much. Their pre-snap motion rate is around 34% in the conference. There's some teams that use more of it, of course. Lane Kiffin's offense probably uses more of it. Maybe Josh Heupel in Tennessee probably use more of it. There are teams, but for the most part, they're around 34%. Hell, Sark doesn't use enough of it, and he's at between 51 and 55%, depending on what season you're looking at overall. I think he should be closer to 70%. Hell, the Dolphins in the NFL are at 80%. 49ers are at 75%. I think 50 to 55% is actually pretty conservative, but it's way ahead of the pace of the SEC. If you look at early down pass rate, Sark loves early down passes. And actually, if you go look at all of every first drive, like the first drive of every game so far, or this past season, I should say, Sark's first down, early down, I should say, pass rate on those initial drives of the game, 75%. He loves throwing early downs early in the games. And that's something I think in the SEC, they're at 45% early down pass rate. Zark can come in and shell shock them. Veteran quarterback, some veteran wide receivers. So there are a lot of things that I think, and I'm not saying the SEC is behind the times or anything, but they don't have offenses that use as many cheat codes and force multipliers and as many, hacks as Sark's offense used. And Sark, really, the entire offense itself is a gumbo of cheat codes and force multipliers. He just throws them in there and uses a ton of them all at once. So there's a lot in addition to the condensed and compressed sets, the pre-snap motion, all this stuff that I think Sark is going to translate really well offensively to the SEC. All right, we'll get into some more. You know what? We'll get into the Longhorn player who I think should be most offended by his rating in the game, or at least one of his ratings in the game, and also who I think could be the most impactful player we're not talking enough about on the offensive side of the ball. We'll get back to that too. But first, we got to get to the topic for the big fat poll of the day, and also the musically themed day of the week. We'll do that on the other side, right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the home. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Austin is a great city. It's one of the reasons people keep moving to Austin. And, of course, that affects the traffic, but that's okay. Traffic is a sign that your city is growing and thriving. And one of the reasons it's growing and thriving is because our friends at Ironworkers Local Union 482, they continue to build and create a lot of the great, iconic landmarks that we love in this city that make it so unique. And many of them you might be driving by right now or stuck in traffic right now by the DCAR Stadium, the Pennybacker Bridge, just a couple of them. The folks at Ironworkers Local 482 right now, they're hiring over 3,000 people for another big project right here in Central Texas. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, a pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. So right now is a great time for you to become a member of Ironworkers Local 482, whether you're looking for an exciting employment opportunity or a refreshing career change, or you want a new challenge, or you want to feel valued by your employer. Right now is the perfect time for you to become a valued member of this prestigious organization, Ironworkers Local 482. To do it, just go online today and apply at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org.
Back in the Rodcast here on a Wednesday morning, and that means it's a one artist Wednesday where we play one artist all show long and give you a little deeper dive into their catalog. And today it's going to be Queen. Brian May, the guitar player's birthday is this week, so we said we will celebrate Queen today and some solid Queen songs. Not necessarily all the straight biggest. I mean, they are the stadium rock anthem. They have two giant stadium rock anthems that are very common. So we're maybe some different stuff. Maybe I've got a bunch that I'm picking from. So they're one of those bands that has a ton of songs that you can pick from for this.
Yeah, that's on the biopic about
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Queen. Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, with Rami Malek.
Yeah, and I don't really use it like it is a musical because but they don't. It's not a musical in the old school definition where they break out into songs randomly, but they sing, of course, the catalog in the movie. So that's the kind of, I guess if that is a musical, I like those kind of musicals, like Walk the Line, if that's a musical, but I don't know if that's considered a musical, because musicals to me, the annoying ones are the ones where they randomly break out in the song.
Yeah.
Right. During dialogue, they just like, let's go to the store. Let's go to the store.
Yeah, exactly.
And they start singing. It's
exactly.
No, I can't.
Let me ask, does Blues Brothers fall into a musical then?
I think it is. Because they do kind of randomly break out.
But
it's cooler.
But they're real songs, not songs written for the musical.
That's true. It's not written with dialogue.
Does it have to be? Right. Is a musical one that has songs specifically written for it, or can you just use regular songs in it? And still, I don't know.
That's a great point. I don't know. I don't know if those are even considered musicals, but to me, when you're right, I don't like the kind that they break out into song randomly and the dialogue is a part of the lyrics of the song.
Yeah,
I'm with you. I just like when there's good music in the movie. I'm cool with that as a result of the plot, whatever it may be.
Does the music have to further the story? And
yes, that's a great point. Yes, that's true. You're right. That is kind of one of the keys. Yes, that's why the lyrics are part of the actual conversation, the dialogue. You got to listen to it like,
they're talking about this thing that's in the movie rather than that kind of makes sense. I kind of get it.
Yeah, exactly.
They're in a music shop and he's talking about dancing. Okay, we get it.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're remaking stuff. Because I don't know, is it in Mean Girls they remade? That's a musical.
Yeah,
they're remaking a lot of things that are musicals.
Yeah,
like The Color Purple. I think they remade it. It was a musical.
I don't know.
I want to say they did that, and I was like, I can't do it. Yeah, move on.
It's a weird.
Yeah. That's weird.
Yeah, that's a weird one to put in there, but
that's a weird one. Exactly. That's a weird one. Exactly.
You know what this sadness needs? Music.
Roots, the musical. It's like, nope, that's not good. No.
It's time for Schindler's List of musical, guys. We're doing it. Right. We're making this stuff just the saddest movies we can think of. Are gonna be musicals. Still one of my favorites is I was doing a basketball game with Craig, and he goes through and he's talking about how the team is going to be in New York, and while they're in New York, they're going to go see a musical. They're going to go see the play MJ. Broadway. They're going to go see MJ, and then because it's basketball, and I guess just on his mind, he says, "Yes, MJ about Michael Jordan," and I'm like, Craig, I don't think that's about Michael Jordan. I'm gonna guess the music on Broadway is about Michael Jackson. Just gonna go on a limb here. Yes, it's about Michael Jackson. But now I do want to see a Michael Jordan musical.
I would love a Michael Jordan. Actually, you're joking, but it probably would be a hit. We love us some Michael Jordan. We do. No, man.
This song, F Them Kids.
The MJ musical.
A great song. There's another track called I Took It Personal.
Oh, that would be good, man. Actually, you're right. That'd be a lot of really interesting selections in there. Now that I think about it, with MJ.
And then you get
good ones.
Whoever gets to play Dennis Rodman. That's like the best part.
Come on, man. You know that exactly. That's not bad. That's not bad. I like that.
Someone bring it to Broadway. Let's get to the big fat poll today. Text line's open 512-447-3776 is the text line number. We'll get this posted up on X as well at the Horn ATX.
Patrick's big fat poll of the day on the Horn.
All right. We asked you yesterday how many conference championships Texas football will win in the SEC in the next 10 years. We asked you that yesterday. You guys pretty overwhelmingly said 1 to 3.
There you go.
So we thought we'd flip the tables a little bit because some people were asking this on the text line yesterday. They wanted to compare and contrast with the other newcomer to the SEC. So today, how many SEC championships will OU football win in the next 10 years?
Oh, wow.
Same question, be the same poll answers. You can go 0, 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 9. Same one we'll put up but today it's about OU. Do you think OU will transition? So we said 1 to 3 for Texas. We know that OU was dominating in the Big 12. They won a bunch of Big 12 championships.
14.
14.
Yeah.
Will that transition at all to the SEC? Now, we also know the last 5, they were not as dominant. They had 1 in the last 5. So they have not been as dominant recently, but they've still done very well for themselves. So how many conference championships will OU football have in the next 10 years? That's the question for today. Going to switch it up a little bit and see if you guys have a little faith that they'll win one as well, or if 0 wins out, or do you think this is a team that's going to do really well? I can't imagine they're going to have many votes for 4 to 6 and 7 to 9, but I'm more curious in the 1 to 3 and the 0 how we tallied out with Texas.
Yeah, I saw. I think it was Jeff Ketchum that tweeted out that OU has 53 new players on the roster.
Woo!
53 new players.
Deion coaching there now?
Yeah, exactly. But I think they, it was just a lot of turnover. They lost both coordinators and lost their entire offensive line.
That's true.
And they're starting quarterback, so they just lost a lot. But that is, my man CJ said, I think he said there was 38 scholarship players in 2024 that have never played for the Sooners before. So there's a lot of inexperience overall period, and a lot of turnover with those Sooners even this year, but you're talking about in the next decade. So good question there. We'll come back and discuss that a little bit more. We'll also get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. Brandon Ayuk has requested a trade from the San Francisco 49ers. We'll talk about that. Also, the Texans first team to report to training camp. Yes, it's already happening. We'll talk about the Texans a little bit, talk some Cowboys as well, and also dive into Rod's rant of the day. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a One Artist Wednesday. That's when my co-host, the Idealionaire Patrick Davis, goes deep into the catalog of one specific artist or one specific group. And that artist today, that group, I should say, Queen, will be the focus of One Artist Wednesday. So appreciate my man Patrick helping us out there. Also, go check out the topic for the Big Fat Poll today, because my man Patrick's working hard for you there as well. It's already posted at the Horn ATX on the X account. So go check that out. Patrick, give the people the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day.
Big Fat Poll of the day. How many SEC championships will OU football win in the next 10 years? We asked you about Texas yesterday. You pretty resoundingly said 1-3 yesterday. 46 got some votes. 0 got some votes. But 1-3 was very much the popular opinion. So we're asking today about OU, the other team going to the SEC, the other team that we're seeing that has more Big 12 championships in Texas in football. So I thought, well, maybe you guys think that they're going to be able to go in and take over there as well, or maybe you think that this is going to be a bad move for them. Just want to see what you guys feel if they're in that 1-3 range as well. If you're going to say overwhelmingly 0. Or if you think that the OU is going to have a big historic run. I can't imagine that's going to get a lot of votes. But
no, it's not going to get a lot of votes. I think I think Longhorn fans will put them in the same category with Texas, even though in the Big 12, I mean, they had 14 Big 12 championships. I don't know what their number was in a 10-year span, but they had 14 since the inception.
I think it's 5 in the last 10.
Yeah,
I think it's 5 or 6 in the last 10.
That makes sense. And so in the SEC, I'll say for Oklahoma, I'll go the same range as Texas. I'll say they're probably in the 1-3 range. I got too much respect for Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma's like I said, I don't want people to get offended by this. You could make the argument, and I think you can make a winning argument. They're a better football program than Texas. So, I mean, I'm talking about historically and leading up. I still, I mean, you can make that argument if you want to. Trust me, I'm not going to make that argument because it make me want to vomit. So I won't make that argument, but you can. So my point is that I ain't got too much respect for them as a program. They'll figure out a way to win one in the 10 years. So I'll put them right there with Texas. I'll say this though. I saw I'll give credit to Burnt Orange Nation, because I think they threw it out there. Yes, a poll that they did, and their poll essentially they were asking, which game would you basically, which of the games, Texas or Oklahoma, which of those games, which loss would hurt the most, or which of those opponents would you hate to lose to more? And I think overwhelmingly right now it's at least it's done. It was A&M this year, and I've been saying for a while, I think for this specific season, Texas A&M, that game this year is going to be a little bit bigger than the Texas Oklahoma game, but just this season. That would not be the case going forward. It has never really been the case, but I do think this year it's weird in that way. It's special in that way where the A&M game probably means a lot more to Longhorn fans than the Oklahoma game. And I've never really experienced that. Even when I got here, I got here in 99. So maybe in 99, it was like that. But ever since Bob Stoops won the national title in 2000, it's always meant more. So that's what I know.
Yeah.
But this year it's going to be weird. Like this year, like I said, that the fans are saying, no, the A&M game means more. This season, you got to win that one. You can lose to Oklahoma. Now you are 1-2 versus Oklahoma, so don't lose to them too much. But if you had to pick one to lose, Longhorn fans would rather lose to Oklahoma than A&M this year. Just giving it to you.
No, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, there's also, you add in the fact that one's early in the season and recoverable from, and the other one is late in the season and a much bigger blow. If you lose to A&M in the last game of the season, it's usually not a good sign. But that's semantics at this point, because we're talking about just the rivalry and what, and that I think Texas fans really want the bragging rights over A&M more than OU right now. It's like, we'll fight with OU and we'll get that back over years, and that goes back and forth. But we need to maintain that we're the better program than
yes. Yep, I think that's more of it too. Yeah, the Burn Orange Station poll was: would you rather beat OU or A&M next year? And 75% of the over 1,200 votes, they said A&M this year. This year, it just means more. That and like I said, I haven't experienced that because when I was a player, as soon as Bob Stoops won a national title at Oklahoma, it ratcheted up the pressure in that rivalry and took it from regional to national. And then Mac Brown and his greatness, and then they just kind of went back and forth. Batman needs a Joker. A&M this year, because of the offseason and obviously what happened with Texas baseball and Texas A&M baseball, and now with the the rekindling of the rivalry, it does feel this year. And if the Aggies are good, man, if they're good, even if they're not good, it's still going to be a crazy atmosphere. Even Paul Feinbaum said it's going to be the game of the year in the SEC.
Yeah,
Feinbaum said that. He said, no, it's going to be the game of the year in the SEC. Daniel Jeremiah said that he thinks it's going to be the best game of the year. Remember, he said in his evaluation of Quinn, can't wait to see him play against A&M in Aggie Land. It's going to be wild. It's going to be wild. I don't know if I'm going. I'm debating it. Some people are like, man, you got. I was there last time Texas played Texas A&M there, and I was there for the Justin Tucker field goal, and it was awesome. I was on the field. We rushed the field, hugging random people. It was crazy. The Aggies, man, they've been waiting on this moment, and no matter how good they are, how bad they are as a team, they're gonna be ready for that game. The crowd gonna be ready. Team's gonna be ready. It's gonna be a wild one. So, yeah. So like I said, that it's just weird. I know we're talking a lot about Oklahoma, of course, and they were the ones who were at SEC Media Days yesterday. But that game is usually like the peak of the season for Texas and of the regular season, and then whatever happens in the postseason or SEC. I'm sorry, Big 12 title game or a BCS game, whatever. That is no longer going to be the case in the SEC because you're gonna have another big game in there. Now it won't always be the Aggies. This time it's Georgia and the Aggies. But next year it could be Georgia again right after that, or Bama in the future, or what I mean. Like it could be any of those teams. Like it could be a big Ole Miss game if Ole Miss is really good. Going into that, so it's going to be a little bit different. Now, if you got to play Bama, and I know Oklahoma, that game is always big, but it's not going to be necessarily the peak of the season like it always was in Big 12 play in the regular season. That's not the case anymore. So, all right, good stuff there from the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. Go check it out at the X on the Horn ATX's X account. Go check that out. Also, we'll get to some NFL news, notes, and nuggets here. But before we do that, let's get informed, let's get educated, and let's get updated with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, the Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. The MLB All-Star Game took place last night with the American League getting back to its dominant ways after having its 9-year win streak snap last season. Shohei Ohtani gave the NL an early lead with a 3-run homer in the third inning, but the AL answered back in the bottom with a Juan Soto double and a David Fry single to tie the game up. The eventual All-Star Game MVP, Jarren Duran, then hit a 2-run homer in the 5th inning to give the American League the lead, and they never looked back. From the Rangers, Marcus Semien got a hit and came around to score in the game, and Kirby Yates pitched a solid 1-2-3 inning with 2 strikeouts in the 8th. In the NBA, the Mavericks announced that Kyrie Irving underwent surgery to repair a broken left hand. Irving suffered the injury while training earlier this month. While Dallas did not give a timetable for his return to basketball activities, there is hope in the organization he'll be able to return by training camp in 2.5 months. And the NFL, the Houston Texans, rookies and veterans, reported today to training camp, making them the first team to have all of its players in camp ready to start preparing for the upcoming season. The Texans will play the Bears on Thursday, August 1st in the Hall of Fame game. That is your Horn Headlines.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. Let's start with some Texans conversation. So Chase Daniel, who does now analyst work covering the NFL, obviously was a former NFL player. He's been doing breakdowns about quarterbacks, and he's really connected in the quarterback community. He was recently on a podcast and talked about some information that he got via Case Keenum. and that he's close with Case Keenum. And one of the questions that he asked Case Keenum when he got a chance to see him, because Case Keenum right now is with the Texans, that he asked him, hey, what about CJ Stroud? Like, hey, what's up with him? You're in the quarterback room with him. You're a veteran. You've seen it all in the NFL. Right? Tell me if this dude is legit. Here is Chase Daniel. Listen to what he says that Case Keenum, the info Case Keenum gave him about the potential of one CJ Stroud.
Case and I go way back. The very first question, we both get out of our cars. Hey, what's up, bro? My first question, I said, dude, tell me about CJ Stroud. And he said, verbatim, he said, he has the chance to be one of, if not the best quarterbacks of all time.
All time.
Yeah, all time. And I said, look, I'm not frowning the guy.
Yeah.
But, like, I can see what he meant. And Case is a very straight shooter. He's played for a lot of different teams. But when he said that, my eyes, like, sort of lit up. I sort of got goosebumps because I'm like, I love watching film. I love breaking down quarterbacks. And I can see what he meant. If CJ Stroud can take that next step this coming year, like, they're gonna be tough to beat.
All right. Mike, obviously, hyperbole. I mean, could just be a big fan of CJ Stroud after what he saw. The Case Keenum's seen a lot of football, and and Chase Daniel is saying he's a big fan as well. I've heard Chase Daniel say something, echo very similar sentiments about CJ Stroud in his own analysis. So he is on the CJ Stroud bandwagon, so he's been there for a while. But one of the greatest ever, I will say, if he continues to improve where he started, and where he started was, if you look at yards per attempt, he was 4th in the NFL. Average depth of target, he was 5th. Passing touchdowns, just 13th, but touchdown interception ratio, 1st. Passer rating, 6th. Success rate, 10th. EPA per dropback, 7th. Passing first downs, 8th. Ended up with the win percentage being 11th. Led the NFL in passing yards per game and touchdown interception ratio in the last 35 years in the NFL. There have only been 4 quarterbacks to do it. CJ Stroud, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and John Elway. CJ Stroud's the only rookie to do it. Those guys, Peyton Manning did it in 2013, Brady in 2007. John Elway did it in 1993. So basically, those guys did it in their first 5 years, 6 years, and he's done it in his first year as a rookie in the NFL. And in addition to all that, I mean, all the injuries they had the most injury-riddled offensive line, as we've talked about, in the last 20 years in the NFL. Rookie head coach, nothing against around. I think he's fantastic. But I'm sure there was some growing pains and things that he can learn and get better at.
Yeah, we talked about them being one of the most penalized teams.
They were one of the most penalized teams in the NFL on the road. So there's a lot of growth there from them being a disciplined team. I don't want to drink too much of the Kool-Aid because, man, it's the NFL. I mean, it's tough to come into the NFL
it's also,
and take it over.
It's also Houston football in the NFL.
It is Houston football. Yeah. Gotta think about that. But he is there's no doubt. I mean, right now, coming off of, like I said, the best rookie season we've ever seen, if there's no regression and he gets better than he was last season, man, there's now, I think, reason to believe he could be, a top 5 quarterback in the league. Hell, we read the Jeremy Fowler survey of execs, scouts, and coaches yesterday. They got him they're going to have his number 7, I believe, overall.
Yeah.
If I go back and look at that group, they had him as a number 7. So top 5 actually is not that crazy. I guess, could he be the second best quarterback in the league behind behind Patrick Mahomes? Because right now, Joe Burrow's in that category. Lamar Jackson's probably right there.
Josh Allen.
Some people got Josh Allen right there. Could he, in the conversation, in the debate about who's the best quarterback behind Patrick Mahomes, like, no, it's clearly CJ Stroud. He's the best quarterback behind Patrick Mahomes.
He could be there next year. I mean, the reality is you have to make it to a Super Bowl. But if you make it to a Super Bowl, he's there. Because that's what Joe Burrow's done.
Right. You got to beat Mahomes to do it. That's just a reality. You want to beat Mahomes to do it.
But that's what Joe Burrow did.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so that's the reality. So that's what I'm saying is I think to get past Joe Burrow in people's minds, you have to then beat Mahomes, make it to a Super Bowl. And then everybody says, okay, well, you did what Joe Burrow did and you did it in the same time frame. And now we think that you could be that guy. But that's a extremely high bar to set.
I agree with you though. I'm with you. I think that's what you got to do. You got to take who can take down Mahomes, and Joe Burrow has proven that he can do it once. Hell, Lamar Jackson, the Ravens are still trying. Josh Allen is swinging and missing. And there's only really one guy who's done it, and Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady did it, was able to do it, and a lot of people that can do it. I mean, right now with where he is, and you're right. So I think you just laid out the path. It is clear. You got to beat Mahomes. You got to take Mahomes down. If you do that, then people will give him a lot of that credit, no matter how the game went down. That because they're not going to do it unless CJ Stroud is playing lights out.
Yeah,
I mean, unless he's just cold blooded, they're not going to be able to beat Mahomes anyway. So that'll be interesting. I would say a lot of people are saying that the Texans are right now the biggest challenger potentially to the Chiefs dynastic run. I'm just saying there are some people that have thrown that out there. The Texans may be the best shot just in terms of the window because they just started that window last year.
Yeah, because the Bengals
wide open.
The Bengals feel like they're already at the back end of that window.
They're at the back end of their 5-year window. Yes.
And so
are the Bills.
And the Bills are definitely the Bills are past it. The window
exhausted theirs.
The Bills
the Ravens are right up against it too. They're probably close to exhausting theirs.
And I think that's I don't know. But then again, we know no one has faith in Lamar Jackson to do it. So he's gonna until he does it, no one's gonna believe he can.
Yeah, no, he's got his problem right now is he's done all he can do in the regular season. Nobody even cares about his regular season accomplishments anymore.
Yeah.
All they want to see is, and Dak is like that for a different reason.
Yeah.
But his 2 MVPs in the regular season have proven. I mean, he's a generational talent. Now, can he be a generational winner?
Yeah.
He's a talent, but can you win in the playoffs? Can you go out and can yet translate to playoff wins? Right now, it just hasn't for Lamar Jackson, and I don't think it's over at all. It just hasn't necessarily translated for him yet. But I do think for everybody now, you got one guy you got to beat. You got to find a way to beat Patrick Mahomes. And you got to kind of go against each other and try to take each other down as you get there. But ultimately, for all of those young quarterbacks we're talking about, you got to figure out how you're going to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. But CJ Stroud, like I said, I gave you the stats earlier this week about how he throws the football downfield. It's amazing. Nobody in the NFL is throwing the football downfield with more effectiveness and efficiency than CJ Stroud. Yesterday I told you that the NFL basically has taken away explosive plays. Explosive plays, and especially through the passing game, have dropped precipitously in the last 4 or 5 years because they're keeping 2 deep safeties back, and they're going to do that against CJ Stroud more too. But if you go look at he had 5 games last year with at least 25 pass attempts and a 10-yard average depth of target. That was the most in the NFL. In 3 of those games, he had at least 10 yards per attempt, and that's a league high figure. Only Dak had 2 last season. Such games. No rookie since 2000 has done that more than once. CJ Stroud did it 3 times. And according to 33rd, Stroud was the only quarterback to throw more than half of his passes past the first down marker in 2023. Like over half of his passes. Over the past 5 seasons, only 10 quarterbacks have finished the season with over half of their passes, or at least half their passes or more, traveling past the sticks. Not a lot of quarterbacks do it. The modern game isn't designed for it. And yet this guy is doing it. And he's doing it with extreme efficiency. He is the only quarterback since 2000 to average at least a 9-yard or more average depth of target and have an interception rate of 1 or lower. Only QB. Chunking it downfield, average depth of target, and not throwing picks when you do it. It's pretty hard thing to do because a lot of the NFL quarterbacks, they haven't really figured it out. Even Patrick Mahomes stopped throwing downfield. Patrick Mahomes, his average depth of target, he's talking about less than, it's the lowest of his career. now. His average depth of target on his touchdowns is less than 7 yards. Even Patrick Mahomes said, I'm just going to stop throwing deep and vertical because I have too many turnover-worthy plays. I'm throwing into harm's way. We'll see if CJ Stroud, if he has the same evolution next season when teams play more too high against him, or if he's still chunking it deep and chunking it vertically downfield. All right, so that's CJ, some CJ Stroud conversation. Want to play that audio for you. Real quick, let's get to, because there's a couple other stories here, and also I want to get to my rant of the day. Let's talk about Brandon Ayuk really quickly, because Brandon Ayuk has requested a trade from the 49ers. Now, this story is all over the place because the 49ers reportedly, and this came from Pro Football Talk, reportedly the 49ers offered Brandon Ayuk initially $26 million per year. This is actually before the wide receiver market inflated. And this offseason, you had 3 different receivers end up signing deals that averaged $30 million per year. All right, at the wide receiver position. Now there are 4 wide receivers that are making $30 million per year, and reportedly Brandon Ayuk wants to make somewhere in the neighborhood of Amon-Ra St. Brown money. That was reported earlier this year. So initially, the 49ers, they offered him $26 million, but then the wide receiver market blew up, so your $26 million is lowballing now. And reportedly, they haven't offered anything else. They haven't gone up to a bigger number. And in addition to that, now you have receivers who are not even number 1 receivers. You got number 2 receivers. You got Jalen Waddle. You got Devontae Smith. Them guys like that making $28 million, $28 million. So sorry, your 26 is a no-go here. Sorry for it. Like right now, you got to start at 29 million. And if you're going to start at 29, he's going to be like, man, just give me my 30 million. Just give me my 30 million. Why semantics here? Give me my 30 million. But they don't consider him a wide receiver 1. Debo was considered their wide receiver 1, but this year he was a second team All-Pro. And he's going to make 14.1 million this year on his rookie deal. It's the option year of his rookie deal. He was given and at 49ers, they gave him permission to seek a trade earlier this year before the draft. I guess it didn't work out. Remember, he's gone on social media publicly and voiced his disdain for the situation and kind of thrown them under the bus and hinted that he wants to go play in Washington with his old teammate from Arizona State, who's there now as the starting quarterback, Jaden Daniels. He's made so he's hinted at a lot of stuff like that and gone on social media and revealed what the 49ers told him, that they didn't want him. That's all been out there. And remember, the 49ers told the Steelers in February, reportedly, that Ayuk wasn't available. So the 49ers have been waffling back and forth.
Yeah.
He's pretty consistent that, hey, he wants out. But don't forget, Deebo Samuel at one point also requested a trade publicly. And then they got his deal done, and he was happy. So I think if they pay him, he'll be fine. But they're not going to – I don't know if they're going to trade him. Remember, they drafted a receiver in the first round, Ricky Pearsall, who right now is on a non-football injury list for the 49ers. I don't know what that's about. So he's on a non-football injury list to start the season. They're all in now. They have to go all in. Shannon's got no choice. He cannot afford to lose any weapons because he's had double-digit leads on the Kansas City Chiefs twice in the Super Bowl and lost each time. The Kansas City Chiefs have gotten better. They've added to the worst wide receiving core in the NFL. You're the 49ers, you cannot afford regression. You cannot afford to get worse. So if I'm the 49ers, I got to keep Ayuk and go all in. I can't trade you. I need you for this year. You're part of my all-in philosophy, especially since this young buck, Ricky Pearsall, I don't know what's going on with the non-football injury list thing, but he's still a rookie. If I'm the 49ers, I know it seems irresponsible, but this is right now, you're at the point now where you're a Super Bowl or bust. There's nothing else really for you to accomplish. So you need Ayuk. If you're the 49ers, I think you need Ayuk to beat the Chiefs. I don't know if you beat the Chiefs without Ayuk. Hell, you couldn't beat them with him. Definitely don't think you're going to beat them without him. That's just my personal opinion.
No,
I don't know what they do. They're in there. This is quite a conundrum.
No, and it's somewhat similar to what the Cowboys are dealing with right now, and not wanting to pay all of their guys, but being in a position that they still want to try and go for a Super Bowl this year. And so you're in that rough spot. I think if you want to talk about your best possible scenario is probably, if you say we want to keep him, then pay him, and you're gonna have to pay him a lot, and you pay him that $30 million, pay him whatever it is, and then trade him after the season.
I mean, I was gonna say how the franchise tag. I think that stuff's done. They can't do that. I actually don't know what they should do because, like I said, you can't lose them, and I don't know if you can justify paying him and Debo that kind of money.
And then the only other option you have is if you do call a team, and Washington was the one that was the easiest example because I can think of it off the top of my head. Is if you call Washington and you say, "Do you want Brandon Ayuk? We'll take Terry McLaurin. We'll take a guy who's a little bit older and your number one wide receiver. Give us him, and we get another wide receiver in. We get another guy into our system. So we're trading a player for a player, but you get this young star who gets to play with Jaden Daniels. You pay him. He'll be your future. McLaurin not necessarily your future. He's not old, but he may not be your future anymore. Give us that. If there's another team like that where you say, we need a wide receiver, at least a wide receiver 2 back in the trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we need somebody back in this trade so that we're not completely closing our window. We need somebody else. We're not trading for draft picks. Draft picks don't help us.
Nope.
So and we need another wide receiver. Like we don't need another. We need somebody else. So the problem is most teams that would trade for him probably want to have
They want to have 2 guys.
They want to have 2 guys. They don't want to necessarily give up, or they don't have anybody already. Like you look at it, if a Giants wanted to make the trade, the Giants don't have a wide receiver.
No.
I mean, they have Malik Neighbors now, but they're clearly not trading Malik Neighbors. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, you want to do that? We'll take him. We'll take it.
so I mean, so there's not a lot of that, but if you find somebody that's a more veteran wide receiver, and for the 49ers to say, we're fine getting a 30-year-old, because again, our window is not huge. So we're fine getting someone who's a little bit older and a veteran that's okay to come and play for a ring and wants to try and win. We're okay with that, but we can't lose everything.
No, you're right. That's a great, and I love that idea. I think actually that is the best possible option for the 49ers if they have to trade Ayuk. Because like you said, draft picks, they don't mean a damn thing right now. The window for the 49ers is wide open. This is when you're Super Bowl or bust. I just think, I don't know if that veteran's going to be able to provide what Brandon Ayuk provided. So you still get potentially, like you said, it's better than nothing. But I still think the drop off may be significant. I mean, look at Brandon Ayuk this year because he's their man beater. Debo is part of the machinery of malleable multiplicity that Shanahan has put together, right? This monster of multiplicity. You got 4 different guys that can play multiple positions. You got Christian McCaffrey who can play running back and wide receiver. You got Kittle who can play out at wide receiver, put him in the slot, put him at H-back, put him at tight end. You got Debo who can play in the backfield, also play wide receiver. You got Kyle Juszczyk. You can move around this movable chess piece. That's the whole point of the offense. They're making it really, it's a Rubik's Cube that the defense has to solve down to down. But you got one guy out there who's just a straight up man beater. He's a man beater. That's Ayuk. That's how the offense is designed. And whoever you get in return, they got to be a straight up man beater. All right. And Brandon Ayuk last year, average depth of target, 3rd among NFL wide receivers. Contested catch percentage, 4th. Yards per route run, 3rd. Yards per reception, 2nd. 20+ yard receptions, 3rd. Wide receiver rating, 2nd. If you go look at first downs per route run, more accurate than yards per route run, he is 2nd behind Tyreek Hill. I mean, he was really good for them because I have to allocate so many resources to deal with this machinery of multiplicity with the 49ers. Usually I got to have 2 guys keying Debo, Christian McCaffrey, honestly, Juszczyk and Kittle, because he'll motion and shift those guys and basically move them to an entirely different position. Have Debo in the slot and motion this dude into the backfield as a running back then. And in the back, he's already got Christian McCaffrey in the backfield too. He'll take Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield, motion him all the way out wide. Now he's a wide receiver. So I got my DB's got to adjust him, and the linebacker adjust him if he's in the backfield. He keep moving these pieces around, and it just breaks the rules. Essentially you are violating the rules of my defense over and over again. That's even before you snap the ball. So you got multiple defenders keying these guys so that you can adjust easily when he moves them around. I can't afford to be doubling Ayuk and rolling coverage over the top of Ayuk. Most of the time, man, my safety, I'll give you some late help with the safety, but my cornerback, you got to handle that guy. So we got a lot going on here. Ayuk's out there just eating, man beating. So I don't know if they get a guy that can bring to the table what he provides. And guys, Shannon's getting, I ain't gonna say he's getting desperate, but the frustration level is mounting. I mean, think about this, guys. Give you one step before we get to the break here and get to Roger Rank. Shanahan became the 5th coach in NFL history to lose his first 3 Super Bowl appearances as a head coach or coordinator. None of the previous 4 ever won a Super Bowl. He's going to be trying to do something that nobody's ever done. Once you get to the Super Bowl that much and you strike out, usually means you ain't got what it takes to win the Super Bowl. I think he does. I think he will win one. But now he's in the same game. Think about it, the 49ers coaches who get Super Bowls, they don't lose. Bill Walsh and George Seifert get there, they don't lose. Shannon's got there. He's kind of the first San Francisco coach that those greats that gets to the Super Bowl and loses. So now he's with Marv Levy, Bud Grant, Ted Marchibroda is on that list, and Jerry Burns, the Vikings defensive coordinator. They're the only coaches that have a part of that group to lose their first 3 Super Bowl appearances, and they didn't end up winning one. So my point is, like, historically, and think about, he's had double-digit leads, guys, at every Super Bowl. 20-something point lead over the GOAT, Tom Brady. 10-point lead each time over Patrick Mahomes. You're not supposed to win playoff games when you're down double digits. I gave you guys those numbers. And yet, his games have been against the GOATs. He's going against the only 2 players. I'm not joking, guys. He's going against the only 2 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL to have winning records when you're down double digits in the playoffs. And he's had double-digit leads on both of them. And Tom Brady's one. And as matter of fact, I gotta go look. Tom Brady doesn't have a winning record. He has the winningest record. The only one with a winning record is Patrick Mahomes. Tom Brady has a winningest record among those quarterbacks. So the only 2 guys that can get it done are the only 2 guys he's faced. Anybody else he would have faced, he'd have a Super Bowl championship now. It's like the football gods are working against him. The 49ers were 5-0 in their first Super Bowls. They think they're cursed. I'm not joking. The fan base, I know a lot of them, they think they're cursed with Shannon to get there and never win one. Because they've always won when they get there. And they've had double-digit leads and can't hold them. All right, we come back. Raj around the day on the other side. This guy should be aggrieved, upset with his standing in the college football video game. We'll talk about why it's the case, and we'll talk about why he may be the most impactful player we're not talking enough about. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to Rod's rant of the day. So I was looking at some of the reviews from the new college football video game, which isn't, I don't know if they have the widespread release yet, but it's out because you're getting all the reviews and I'm starting to see all the different, the reveals, if you will, of all the different ratings of the players. And let me just throw this out there because it the numbers are staggering. So according to one report, there were over 700,000, like 713,000 players online for the initial release of it. And I believe that the cost of it was basically like $100. The report was that it was like $100. So their claim is that they made close to $70 million with the initial online release of the video game based on those numbers. That was the peak of the online gaming community yesterday. They said the online usage peaked at 713,000, and he said it was $100. I don't know. You guys might know better than me because I didn't play the game. For the release, to get the release of the video game, and that basically their numbers say they made upwards of $70 million. Does not include those who are going to play the game later. This was just all the folks on the initial online release who were documented to have purchased the game when it was first available. So NCAA. I mean, I remember when Ed O'Bannon won the case. Remember initially EA Sports told the NCAA, hey, the video game is so popular, we'll do it without promise of a profit. It's such a cultural phenomenon, cultural phenomenon for us. We'll do it even without a profit. I thought to myself, man, why would they do that? This is why. If those numbers are anywhere close to that is why. Because the money they're about to make from this video game it's ridiculous. And it is, kind of based on that, it is kind of a cultural phenomenon. Now you got the young generation playing it and old generation like myself who remembers the video game, and from a nostalgic standpoint, they were playing it. So I think you had two separate generations coming together yesterday to celebrate the release of the new EA Sports college football video game. So once again, showing the NCAA miscalculated, got it wrong.
Yeah,
no shock to anybody.
I know I've talked to multiple friends and I've looked pricing out video game systems to see how much it would cost to get. Because I don't have a gaming system that's good enough to play it. And so I'm like, well, how much? I'm like, it's not affordable for me right now. But
no,
but that's the point. Is I've had talking about, and they're like, this is about how much it would cost to do. And so you're like, that's how I know that people are talking about buying gaming systems solely to play this game.
I agree with you. Actually, that's crazy you said that because I do on Texas football, and it's a great platform. We do YouTube, and there's discussion of, hey, we got to get right be a gaming system so that I can play online with Longhorn fans and play.
I'm telling you,
play each other. And I'm like, I don't have a gaming system, but yeah, I was like, I don't know if I can really afford. I just had a kid, so I don't know if I can justify spend a lot of money on a gaming system. I just had a baby girl, so I don't know. That's something I literally have to clear with wifey. Like, hey, could we buy a gaming system and that kind of thing? I don't even know. But yeah, the latest report was that college football 25 made over $70 million in a day, with 700,000 people, 700,000+ people playing on release night. So I would say the game is a hit. There's no doubt it is a major hit. Okay, so I think this Longhorn player has the most to complain about when it comes to the video game. And I saw my man Nash bring this up at Nash Talks Texas. He's worth a follow. Does a great job with Texas-related content. And he said, according to EA Sports College, there are 42 running backs faster than Jaden Blue on the video game. Despite Jaden Blue last year was clocked by Real Analytics at 20. This is in-game. Real Analytics in-game ball carrier. And they track all the games around the country, FBS level, FCS level, Power 5 level. We're talking about they don't discriminate. And they had him clocked at 22.3 miles per hour as the fastest running back in college football last season. Like tracked like real-time data. Their speedometers, I think they have like an AI algorithm they do it with, but clocked at 22.3 miles per hour. I remember in high school he was clocked at 21.2 miles per hour. We're talking about on-field speed. I don't know how you could justify having 42 running backs faster than Jaden Blue, and his speed on the game is at a 93. They got him at a 93 speed. They got his acceleration at 96. So acceleration, I mean, that's actually probably pretty accurate. His speed should be higher than a 93. So if I'm Jaden Blue, he's an 85 overall. I'm probably a little upset that they got a lot of guys on the team faster or as fast as I am on my own team and on the game period. This guy averaged, people forget, last year averaged 6.1 yards per carry. That was higher than Jonathan Brooks, who was at 6.09 yards per carry. Baxter was under 5 yards per carry. I think the team as a whole was right around 5 yards per carry. So he led all running backs in yards per rush with at least 30 rushes on the team. And he's gained some weight from what I've heard, but good weight. We're talking about muscle mass because they want him to run and be more effective in interior runs. He's great on the perimeter because he's got acceleration and he can get to the edge and destroy angles for defenders to the football. What they want to do is be able to break arm tackles and be able to, with that armor, to be able to make a defender miss inside, but also when he has to be able to absorb the blow from some of those interior runs and still then be able to accelerate, break a tackle. And that wasn't necessarily a strength in his game last season. So what I've heard, he's gained a little bit of weight, but it's good weight for Jaden Blue. And I think by the end of the season, it's possible we're talking about him as one of the most impactful players on offense, period. And that depends on how Sark wants to use him. But he's got world-class speed. I think and I've called it the Godspeed package, right? You should have several packages where you're just putting as much speed on the field as possible. And if you're doing that, then he's definitely going to be in the backfield. Yeah. If you do that with 11 personnel, then Amari Niblack's going to be your tight end. If you do that with 10 personnel, the red package that he ran in Alabama, which is 1 back, 0 tight ends, then he's also your running back. And think about going with that, what I call the Godspeed package, and then going empty, right? Empty formation, which Texas was and has been really effective out of empty. At least last season, the last 3 games, they were really effective running empty concepts. And you could do that by getting him matched up on a linebacker that's got to cover him in space, out of empty formation. I think that's something Texas could look to do and get him in some really, really advantageous matchups across the board just to be able to see him utilize his speed. So I think you may get him with some downfield routes. We even saw that in the spring game, and we saw that in the game versus Washington. Now they were just they ran the wheel route with him. They ran that old Texas route with him. I think you could see them running a few more downfield routes with Jaden Blue. And like I said, using some of those speed spread formations and getting him matched up on linebackers and just watching him go to work. Last year in their last 3 games, they had a 33% explosive play rate out of empty formation. And that guy, as we all agree, is explosive. Also the pony package. You guys have heard me talk about it ad nauseum, the pony package. There's no personnel grouping more explosive, more effective, more efficient. Whether you're talking about yards per attempt or yards per rush, are you talking about explosive play rate? You're talking about first down, touchdown rate. It doesn't matter. Your most effective personnel grouping is the pony package. Speaking of the Washington game, your first touchdown of the game, you ran down the field and made your way down the field running the pony package, really effective, and then only ran it for 2 plays for the rest of the game. But in that package, I think Jaden Blue and the Cedric Baxter, and then he'll add in some of the other guys that potentially could be role players in that package. But I think Jaden Blue in that package specifically could be weaponized. And you could really have some very innovative ways to get him matched up, like I said, on linebackers, because that pony package is going to make a defense counter with heavy personnel, 40 personnel, usually 3 or 4 linebackers on the field. That's exactly what you want. You can go empty out of the pony package. And then Jaden Blue is matched up on a linebacker. That's money every day, all day. You can run fades with him, run slants on the outside with him in the slot. So I think Jaden Blue, when it's all said and done, we may be looking back and saying, man, that guy was, we didn't talk enough about his impact and how explosive he could be. And I think, ultimately for him, he's a complementary piece to Cedric Baxter, but I think he could end up earning more playing time, more reps, and more of a role once, he proves himself as someone who doesn't necessarily need to be pigeonholed, right? As a speed back that runs perimeter runs on the outside, or as your jet sweep guy. Once he proves he can run inside, then I think you can see Sark really open things up for him. All right, we come back. We'll have What the Facts, What the Stats on the other side right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to What the Facts, What the Stats here in our segment. So, speaking of facts and stats, how about this one? We were just talking about wide receivers, and this is about NFL players making at least $20 million. So NFL players, different positions, making at least $20 million per year. Quarterbacks, 18. Running backs, 0 running backs making at least $20 million per year. Tight ends, 0 making at least $20 million per year. Wide receiver, 21 wide receivers making at least $20 million per year. Hell, remember that number was at 5, like in 2020, and now it's at 21. Offensive tackles, 8. Offensive guards, 5. Centers, 0. Interior D linemen, 13. Edge rushers, edge defenders, 12. And I told you guys, interior D line, premium position. It's starting to overtake edge as more of a premium position. And looking at guys who are making $20 million per year, and it's simple. I literally been telling you guys, 60% of the NFL passing game is quick game, balls out in 3 seconds. Edge rushers can't get there. Why am I paying these guys all this money when the ball's out so damn quick? My edge rushers can't get there. It's quick game. But you know who can disrupt with the quick game? The interior guys. They're more disruptive because it's pressure right up the gut. What's the quickest point? All right, the quickest way to get from point A to point B? Straight line. Your interior D lineman, that's a straight line, as opposed to the guys who got to run the hump and go around the edge. They're becoming less effective and less important, and because they can't get there.
Yeah,
It's just tough.
You also add in the fact that a quarterback can step up into the pocket. If it's an edge rush, you can't step up. You have to move sideways, and moving sideways throws your footwork off, throws your vision off. Everything that your passing lane, everything changes if you move sideways as opposed to stepping forward.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's a great point. So that's why the interior war daddies are the ones who are now starting to get a lot of love, because just now analytics is telling you they mean a little bit more than the edge rushers. Okay, also linebackers here, and I think they're talking about off-ball linebackers. 1, cornerback 3, and safety 1. This is at positions who are making players at positions making at least $20 million. So wide receiver, you're looking at this and you're determining premium positions from this. It's QB, wide receiver, interior D line, and edge rusher. And if you look at those tackles, it's probably mostly left tackle. So throw left tackle in there too. But cornerback isn't. The secondary went through a shift last year. Remember, they started letting all these great corners and great DBs. They basically were trying to reset the market at the defensive back position.
Yeah.
And I think they did so successfully because it's not a lot of DBs making a lot of high-end money. Not a lot of them.
No, I mean, Jamal Adams finally got a deal. Quandre's still without a deal, right?
Quandre's still out there. There's a lot of good safeties and DBs still out there.
Yeah.
I want to say it's a bunch of them. And I think that's just because they reset the market and depressed the DB market a little bit. But remember, I told you guys, a lot of good young DBs out there. A lot of good young DBs. We're in a golden age of young defensive backs who are making all pro and like they're on their rookie contracts. I mean, hell, the Cowboys got 2 of them. Sauce Gardner's one of them. You know, Patrick Surtain. You got a lot of just really good young DBs across the board. And I think that's also part of it. But it doesn't make sense because wide receivers the same thing. You got to get a lot of good young wide receivers, and that doesn't depress that market.
No. I mean, it could go into your world of, you know, if you want to go into conspiracies about the offense not scoring enough, and maybe we're going to depress the DB market a little bit more to try and, hey, man, we want offense.
Yeah.
We don't want defense.
It makes as much sense as anything because I can't understand. It doesn't make. Yeah, I can't understand it either. But wide receiver, if you're a wide receiver, you're getting paid these days. It's just the way it is, and that's what they value. No doubt about that. Okay, let's get to the break. We'll come back. We'll dive back into SEC Media Days. We'll talk about Texas actually because they're actually showing up today at SEC Media Days. We'll get into that. I'm sure there'll be some tidbits leaking out from that. But we'll talk about yesterday's SEC Media Days attendees. You were at the Oklahoma Sooners. You were at the Georgia Bulldogs. Kirby Smart, Brent Venables. We'll play some audio we got from SEC Media Days yesterday as well. We get into all of that and more. We go behind the burn orange curtain and tell you why Nick Saban hates going up against a Sark offense. We give you all that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn.
Back here on the Rodcast. Apologies for the long intro. Having some technical issues right now with Rod Babers. So we're trying to get him back online and back on the show. We'll keep that rolling as soon as we can get him going back. He's going to try and reset some things and get us set back up for the 8 o'clock hour here on the show. As we try and do that. Sorry, I was trying to do technical work and host a show at the same time. It's complicated stuff. But we're back here on the Rodcast. We'll get Rod back as soon as possible. If you want to go check out the Big Fat Poll of the Day, it is up on the Horn ATX, at the Horn ATX on X. That is where you can check that out. That is got for you the Big Fat Poll of the Day. Yesterday, we asked you who will, how many titles, how many SEC championships will Texas win in the next decade? Wondering when Nick Saban made those comments about about Texas running the SEC, how it would work out for Texas if they would be able to connect and if they'd be able to make it work in the SEC. And that some people are saying that it will, some people are saying that it won't. That is the question. So we asked you yesterday, you said 1 to 3, 4 to 6 got some votes, 0 also got some votes. Right now, we are asking about OU, seeing the other team that goes to the SEC, if that would be a team. That is right now, we have OU, that poll right now, 0 is leading the way with 52%. 1 to 3 at 46%, and a couple of you guys voting for 4 to 6. Some people voting for that OU will actually get some as well. Let's see. I'm still trying to get Rod back up as well as I'm talking. So let's keep it rolling as we keep going. Let me give you some Horn headlines while he tries to get set up. We'll hit the Horn headlines while he tries to get set up, and we will keep it rolling here on the Rodcast. Here's your Horn headlines. Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. The MLB All-Star Game took place last night with the American League getting back to its dominant ways after having its 9-year win streak snap last season. Shohei Ohtani gave the NL an early lead with a 3-run homer in the third inning, but the AL answered back in the bottom with a Juan Soto double and David Fry single to tie the game up. The eventual All-Star Game MVP, Jarren Duran, then hit a 2-run homer in the 5th inning to give the American League the lead, and they never looked back. From the Rangers, Marcus Semien got a hit and came around to score in the game, and Kirby Yates pitched a solid 1, 2, and 3 innings with 2 strikeouts in the 8th. In the NBA, the Mavericks announced that Kyrie Irving underwent surgery to repair a broken left hand. Irving suffered the injury while training earlier this month. While Dallas did not give a timetable for his return to basketball activities, there is hope with the organization that he'll be able to return by training camp in 2.5 months. And in the NFL, the Houston Texans rookies and veterans reported today to training camp, making them the first team to have all of its players in camp ready to start preparing for the upcoming season. The Texans will play the Bears on Thursday, August 1st in the Hall of Fame game, and that is your Horn headlines.
All right. Sorry about some technical difficulties there. But we're back, ready to roll. Thank you, Patrick, for holding it down as always. We appreciate that. Let's get back to some SEC Media Day conversation. A couple of things, because Oklahoma, it is they were taking the stage yesterday at SEC Media Days, and I believe Brent Venables was asked about all the new faces, and actually said everything is is going like basically swimmingly, like it's going really, really well, considering new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, new starting quarterback, entirely new O-line. I saw that Jeff Ketchum pointed out that you're going to have more than 50 new players on that roster for Oklahoma this year. My man CJ Fogle said you have 38 scholarship players that have never played for the Sooners before on that team. So Sooners, I don't know if there's anybody dealing with as much turnover as the Sooners are in the SEC at critical spots. I mean, I know there's coaching turnover, of course, but the Aggies are dealing with that. But at least off the quarterback, offensive line. There'll be some continuity. The Sooners don't have that at all. I mean, they don't have the offensive line continuity. They're bringing in a lot of transfers. They're bringing in, obviously, I think a lot of new guys, and offensive line works more as a unit than any other group on the football field. So how long does it take them to gel? I think that wide receiving core is really good. And if Jackson Arnold can develop a baseline of consistency early on. Remember his first start last year against Arizona in the bowl game, several turnovers, the 3 interceptions in that game. But if he can develop a baseline of consistency, they do have weapons. I just don't know if the offensive line is going to provide the protection early that he needs or be able to get a push in the running game. Those are 2 big questions they got to figure out offensively. Seth Luttrell is going to run an offense that's somewhat similar to Jeff Lebby. It may not be the same thing, but it'll be somewhat similar to Jeff Lebby in that aspect. So the defense is going to be good. Danny Stutzman's a stud. Billy Bowman, the safety, also he's an All-American type player. I mean, they got guys in their back 7. There is some question about the defensive line, so you don't want your biggest question marks, and Texas has some of these questions as well, but your 2 biggest question marks to be offensive line and defensive line going into a line of scrimmage league like the SEC. So that's what I think that's the biggest concern for Oklahoma fans is how do the line of scrimmage stack up in the SEC when they're replacing a bunch on both sides of the line of scrimmage. For Texas, you just got to replace them 2 D tackles. Your line, you're bringing back 4 of the 5 starters. Your edge position is deep and experienced, and you brought in a lot of experience at the D tackle position too via the transfer portal with Bill Norton and Lole and Savea. So it's not as big of a concern because you don't want your biggest, issues, uncertainties to be on the lines of scrimmage heading to the SEC. That's where Oklahoma is. All right, so Texas and Oklahoma, of course. The one thing I think is interesting about the Texas-Oklahoma game this year, and I've said this before, this year for Texas, you got that Georgia game after that Oklahoma game. Really, that's the meat of the schedule for Texas. Like that's the right how they do in those games in that 3-week span. I think they got a bye week there as well. How they do in that span is really going to determine the course of the season. And it used to be Mac Brown would divide the season up into 2 seasons based on the Oklahoma game. He really would. He'd say because it was so devastating when you lost, it felt like the season was over and you had to almost recommit. And as a player and as a coach, I think his mindset was, all right, after the game, no matter what happens, it's so big. If you win it, you got to refocus. All right. And make sure that you're once again dialed in on the process every day, getting back to practice, making sure you're not overhyping what the win meant to you. And if you lose it, you got to make sure it doesn't beat you multiple times because it's devastating to lose it because you're usually out of the national championship conversation at that time. Not in the driver's seat to win the Big 12 or get into the Big 12 title game. So psychologically, it was devastating. So he built really constructed his course of action and the way that he wanted to approach the season based on that game. And now it's different because that game will no longer be kind of the peak of the regular season. It's now in the SEC, you're gonna have Georgia after that. Hell, just this year, not any other year, but just this year, I do believe that Texas A&M game is going to be bigger than the Oklahoma game, and that's not something that Longhorn fans are accustomed to at all either. But this year it will be. And by the way, Paul Feinbaum said it'll be the game of the year in the SEC. So I'm not the only one saying that now. And like I said, it's always been Oklahoma since I went to Texas in 2000 and Stoops won a national title in 2000. That's always been a national rivalry, and it's always been the main thing. And A&M took a back seat. They became more of the side piece. Well, just this year, because they're rekindling the rivalry, because of what's going on this offseason, that game is going to be the hostile atmosphere. It's going to be huge. And there's a chance it could be the game of the year in the SEC. But my point is, it'll be a bigger game than Oklahoma this year. And so will Georgia. and those games are after the Oklahoma game. So how Sark, gets these guys ready and how he gets them psychologically focused and how he gets them to bounce back physically and even mentally after some of the games, whether it's a loss or a win, that's going to be a challenge this year. I think it's going to be because he did a great job. Well, he did a really good job last year, even after the Bama game. Remember, after the Bama game, they had a slow start to the next game. The Wyoming game, remember, they played for 3 quarters. They were kind of sluggish out of the start for 3 quarters and then finally woke up in that fourth quarter. That's what you want to avoid, that kind of stuff happening this particular season because you got more pitfalls. So how you handle the loss, because there will be at least one, and how you handle that win this season is going to be really, really important because there are so many like peaks and valleys to the schedule. You'll have that Michigan game early, then you'll have the Oklahoma game, then you have the Georgia game, and then you'll have that A&M game at the end. Texas hadn't had a schedule really like that since maybe 2008. It's the last time they had a season where they had that many like peaks, multiple peaks in the season, like just real like marquee matchup games like that. Okay, let's get to this Paul Feinbaum sound. I want to get to this Paul Feinbaum sound because I think it's interesting. Texas just talked about playing Oklahoma, then you have to play Georgia. Georgia, best team arguably in the country for a lot of different reasons. Line of scrimmage, quarterback position with Carson Beck, the defense, of course, which is Kirby Smart's expertise. So Paul Feinbaum was comparing Kirby Smart to Nick Saban, which is Kirby Smart's mentor. And Kirby Smart's made several jokes. He actually said answering questions now with Nick Saban as a member of the media, he said he feels like he's giving answers to Darth Vader, the Dark Lord Darth Vader, which I'm sure a lot of people probably feel like that too, now that he's a member of the media. But Paul Feinbaum was comparing the two, and I thought Paul Feinbaum made a very interesting point about Kirby Smart's career arc now compared to Nick Saban. Here's Paul Feinbaum.
Accolades aside, how far do you feel like the gap is between where Kirby Smart is right now and ultimately Nick Saban?
I think Kirby Smart, the only reason I can't say this emphatically because I've seen them together, but I think they're the same person, except Kirby Smart was 47 years old? Nick Saban's 72 and working for ESPN. Kirby Smart is the best coach in college football. And he is Nick Saban. I think he's better at his age than Nick Saban was at his age. And I think it's scary. I could give you the crazy, Kirby Smart's going to win more national championships than Nick Saban. But I think he's going to contend with it at some point. He's that good.
He actually is off to a better start in his career than Nick Saban was. I believe Nick Saban didn't win his first national title as a head coach at LSU until he was like in his early 50s, maybe like 52, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. And Kirby Smart's already run 2. He's 48 years old. So I'm not saying he's going to do what Nick Saban did. You went through the numbers yesterday, Patrick, about Nick Saban and his remarkable run of SEC. Was it 9 SEC titles or something crazy?
Yeah, I
like
believe
that?
9 since 2007 when he took over. 7 in the last 10 years.
Yeah. So even last year, right? So I'm not going there and say he's going to do what Saban did, but facts are he is off to a better start of his career than Nick Saban. And ironically, Steve Sarkisian now can keep him from doing what Nick Saban did because he's considered right now the best coach in college football. He's the king of, right. You look at it right now. He's considered right now the top dog, right? King of the SEC.
Is that a pun because of the Bulldogs?
Huh?
Is that a pun?
Oh, yeah. Well done. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I like that. I wasn't even thinking about being punny, but well done. And when Nick Saban became that elite apex predator, nobody in that ecosystem could touch him. He was there were no peers to Nick Saban, and he really didn't have anybody that. And every now and then, it would see someone beat him and get the best of him. So I'm not saying that he was impervious to losses or impervious to defeat, but I will say that I think everybody agrees there was nobody on Nick Saban's level the entire time he was in SEC until Kirby Smart came along. Nobody else was in terms of recruiting, winning championships, style of play. Like I said, he was easily the most dominant force in that conference, and he still was at the end of his career there, and he retired. But he finally had someone that could be considered an equal, or someone that could compete on his level. And the only guy that did that was Kirby Smart. Now he's also was the same coach. He was the most in terms of former mentees, and those who studied under Nick Saban or from that coaching tree. I believe Kirby Smart was with him longer than any other coach too. So he learned more from Nick Saban than anybody else too. So his model of how to build and construct a team is very much built on the Saban championship model, and he knows more about it, which stands the reason why he was able to come up with a blueprint to beat Nick Saban, which is tough to do. As Sark did it last year. So now that he's in the position where Nick Saban was, Sark can keep him from having the same type of dominant run. Because right now there's no program in the SEC, kind of like Georgia. And Alabama's got a lot of talent, but they don't have Nick Saban anymore. So they don't have the coaching, the elite coaching prowess that now Georgia has. Even though Kalen DeBoer could be that, people say he still got to prove it in the SEC, that kind of thing. I think Kalen DeBoer's going to be fine, especially with that talent that Nick Saban left him, because the cupboard is not bare. But for Kirby Smart to have the same kind of dominant run, he'd have to, prove that he is overwhelmingly much better than the rest. His program is overwhelmingly much better than the rest of this new look SEC. And Texas is going to have something to say about that. Sark's going to have something to say about that. So I can't wait to see Sark against Kirby Smart. Got to see him against Nick Saban. Almost got the best of Nick Saban in 2022. Beat him in 2023. In 2024, we'll see how he does against Kirby Smart the first time, and then we'll see what happens, because I believe they're just going to flip the schedule this year to next year. You're just going to go home and away. So you'll see Georgia again. And my theory was that you're going to see Georgia at least 3 times, and I say as many as 5 times over the next 2-3 years. Because I think you're going to see him in the SEC title game this year, and that'll be twice. You're going to see him next season, and that'll be 3 times in 2 years. And there's a chance you can see him in the college football playoff if you go for enough. And that would be another. So, and whether it be this year or next season, I think you face Georgia 3 to 4 times, maybe even 4. I could see 4 times, but I would say at least 3, as many as 5 times over the next 3 years. And you're going to face him 2 times. But I think you get another one of those in the matchups in the SEC title game, maybe 2. And I think you get another one potentially in the college football playoff if Texas goes far enough, because I expect Georgia will too. So that could end up making it like a real rivalry for the time being. It could be the new rivalry in the SEC. Not a long-standing one, and not one with tradition and history, but just one for the time being. It becomes a rivalry that captivates college football because the magnitude of the matchups means so much.
It does. And this is an interesting thing at Kirby Smart when you look at most of the coaches that come off that Saban coaching tree, and most of those coaches are offensive coaches. Most of those guys are like the Lane Kiffins and Sarks and Bill O'Briens and guys
Mike
that are
Loxley's
Mike
on
Loxley,
there,
like a lot of offensive coaches. There's not a lot of
Brian Dabble's on there.
Brian Dabble, Jimbo Fisher. You could even throw in there.
Fisher's on there. Yep.
But they're all offensive coaches. And other than Will Muschamp would probably be your second most successful.
David Rand. We're talking successful. I don't know, but somebody defensive coach from David Rand from the tree.
You're saying successful defensive coaches that went under him.
Yeah.
There's not, and Kirby was his DC for 8 years, something like that, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting, different piece of it, but it also lends to the matchups he's going to have. Kirby will have with Sark. That Sark, they play the different sides of the ball, so the head coaches really get to have that down and dirty fight between their star groups. that Kirby is going to try and build things on defense and Sark's going to try and build things on offense. And it builds that rivalry a little bit more, that you don't have two teams building both. It's going to be all about firepower and offense. You get to see that big matchup of offense versus defense, and then you try and build up the other side too. It'll be a fun matchup. But for those head coach matchups, it's Sark offense versus Kirby's defense.
Oh, it's going to be great. I mean, and, we were thinking the same thing with Nick Saban. I mean, Nick Saban, and we'll get into this actually when we go behind the burn-orange curtain. Nick Saban's defense had all kinds of problems going up against Sark's offense, because football is about football, like boxing and fights, about matchups, and it's possible that Sark's offense matches up well with those style of defenses. And there are some defenses that Sark's offense doesn't necessarily match up that well with. We talked about this ad nauseum, right? The 3 high, 3 down defense, even though Sark has done a great job finding remedies, he's found antidotes. All right, for that 3 high, 3 down defense, and he did a great job last year because he faced it 8 times last year. Turns out, remember they kept talking about the beginning of the season. Well, they broke out a defense we didn't expect to see. Yeah, that's what Houston broke out. They essentially used more than 3 high, 3 down. You knew you were going to see it with Wyoming, but it was a lot of different things they saw. But he saw that defense a lot because it was schematically the defense that matched up the best and countered Sark's offense the best. But some offenses just match up really well with defenses. And something we're going to bring up in the Behind the Burn Orange Curtain segment, Nick Saban himself, who inspired Kirby Smart and his defense, because they, at least philosophically, they're very close, all right, in terms of the rules and the different styles and the different principles of the defense. Sark's offense may match up well with Kirby Smart's defense because it matched up well with Nick Saban's defense, or at least it did when you have Quinn Ewers starting quarterback. Remember, Quinn went down in 2022, but the first quarter, Quinn was dealing. He was slicing up that Alabama defense. Now, they were playing mostly man-to-man, but they play a lot of man-to-man and a lot of pattern match against Texas this past season, and Texas eviscerated that pattern match and that man-to-man. You Georgia may be better at it, but Alabama has some first-round picks in that secondary. They had some second-round picks in that secondary. They had some guys that can go. They weren't no scrubs. That's Nick Saban. Nick Saban approved that game plan. Nick Saban's on there making them adjustments on the sideline. That's the greatest defensive coach of all time. And he really didn't have any counters or any adjustments that truly discombobulated Sark. So I do think that offense matches up well with that style of defense, with that type of defense. We'll get deeper into that. But coming up in the next segment, we'll go behind the burn orange curtain. And Nick Saban was asked about Sark, and he said that he hates going up against a Sark offense. And I'll tell you why that is the case. It's actually something that we brought up last week about Sark's offense and one of the conceptual signatures that make it unique. So we'll do that on the other side. We'll also talk a little bit about the trends in the SEC that Texas can take advantage of, that Texas already maybe ahead of the game on. Been looking at some of those. We'll also get back to some conversation about NFL news, notes, and nuggets. We'll talk some Texans, because the Texans are the first team to report to training camp today. Everybody reporting to training camp. That means we're closer and closer to actual football season. So we come back, we'll talk actual football. We'll talk Texas and Steve Sarkisian and his time with Nick Saban, and how that connection may actually help Sark get a leg up on Kirby Smart in their matchup with Georgia coming up this season. All that and more when we return right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get behind the burnt orange curtain, talk some Texas football here. I saw a quote from Nick Saban that got me a little bit giddy. I've been talking to you guys about the different elements of Sark's offense, the conceptual signatures, things that make it unique. I went to a deep dive, what was that, last week, about when Sark's offense kind of evolved into the modern version of what it is today. And it came from his time in the NFL following my boy Chano and the Mick Shanahan offenses. And then that's when he really got into the pre-snap motion, really got into the high rates of play action pass, really got into the pony package, as we talked about ad nauseum on the show. And something else that I talked about was formation width. Average formation width, condensed and compressed sets and formations. That's also something that Sark really got into following his time in Atlanta, and ever since then, it's been a staple. You can probably recall it just going through your mental Rolodex in your head, thinking about Sark's offensive plays, right? A lot of compressed and condensed sets. And in the NFL last season, the 49ers, they were the last place team in terms of formation width measured in yards, how basically how compressed and condensed the formations were, how it reduced splits by the wide receivers, flex splits by the wide receivers, so they're not taking advantage of the full width of the field. As a matter of fact, they're doing the exact opposite. And the teams that are the teams with the lowest formation width in the NFL, 49ers, the Rams, the Miami Dolphins, the Houston Texans. Those are the four lowest teams, all from that Mick Shanahan coaching tree. So it is a trait, all right, of those play callers and those play designers, where you want to have the advantage of creating space on the outside with these condensed sets. And I was looking at some of the numbers that I brought up earlier this month about this topic. First of all, it makes you more predictable when you spread things out. The more spread out you are, the likelihood it's going to be a pass because you have fewer players in the box to help you block for the run play, whatever it's going to be. And for teams in spread formation, 79% of those plays ended up in a pass, averaging 6.7 yards per attempt. In those condensed, compressed sets, 49% pass rate. You're basically even. So teams are much less predictable when they're in those compressed and condensed sets. Could be a run, could be a pass. The pass out of condensed and compressed sets, 7.7 yards per pass. So you're averaging a whole yard more per pass out of the compressed and condensed sets. And the predictability factor is thrown out because you're 50-50. I can run it, I can throw it. Why are you 50-50? Because now I brought them DBs in here, who, by the way, a former DB myself, we hate coming in to be a forced run defender. That's why we are secondary run defenders. That's one of the reasons they call us a secondary. We're a secondary run defenders. All right. So we're run support, but secondary run support. And Sark runs these compressed and condensed sets that brings you closer to the line of scrimmage and close to the formation, and therefore forces you to become a force run defender, one of the main run defenders. And the reason people in the secondary, guys in the secondary, aren't asked to be force run defenders a lot of the time is because they're not great tacklers anyway. So Sark wants to take guys who specialize in coverage and make you a run defender. And the condensed and compressed sets, they do that automatically. And they also create space on the outside, right? Because now, since you have brought everybody close to the line of scrimmage, and they have to be closer to their work, all right, so that you don't just have a guy running wide open as a compressed and condensed set. You're not going to go cover nothing, all right, as a defender. But now you've created all this space on the outside to take advantage of. So you can, for running backs and wide receivers and, who are adept at making guys miss in open space, you just created a lot of it. And all you got to do is get a one-on-one engineered out there with all that space as a play designer. And hey, Debo on your guy one-on-one with 20 extra yards of space, let's see if you can stop him in that open field tackling situation. So it's tough in that regard. It also dictates leverage for the defender. I can't be inside leverage if I'm a cornerback. If you have a compressed and condensed set, I can't. Why can't I do that? Well, because if I'm inside leverage, then I just gave you got 20 yards, 30 yards of open space on the outside created naturally, that we just talked about. And now I just gave you easy leverage to get to that. So I have to take away the outside just to take away the space created by the formation. But then you automatically know, well, the corner's outside every time. So if there's an inside release, you can work through traffic. Something else now I got to worry about. More stress on a defender. I got to worry about working through traffic. You could run behind the tight end. You could run behind the line of scrimmage. You could run a quick underneath crosser. You could run an over route to the other side of the field, the opposite hash or the opposite number, and I got to chase you all the way to the other side of the field because I'm playing outside leverage. Right. And if I get too close to you, trying to play bump and run coverage, well, I can get picked or rubbed. And then I get picked or rubbed, then you're running wide open on a crossing route, and that's an explosive play. So I got to avoid that. So as a defender, I have to play a certain leverage when playing or defending these types of sets, and Sark already knows that. And I can't necessarily, or I'm a little reluctant to come up and play press and get my hands on you. So you'll get a freer release because I can't afford to get bumped off, to get picked or rubbed working through traffic. So you already know, number one, the leverage of the defense, and you already know they have to give you a free release. And you know where the space is already created. It's going to be on the outside because everybody now has to come in and constrict. And basically with this condensed and compressed set, the space now is created on the outside, constricted now close to the line of scrimmage, where you've created, by the way, a lot of traffic, where you can get linebackers rubbed and picked, and also occupy eyes with a lot of sleight of hand, RPO, play action pass, pre-snap motions and shifts, everything happening a whole lot quicker. So it's really stressful on the defense, is my point. So you see why it's the yards per attempt go up and why it's a successful formation, whether you're talking about running or whether you're talking about throwing. And average NFL formation width year to year is starting to drop. In 2023, it was 24.1. In 2014, it was 28.4. As a matter of fact, in 2016, spread formations, ones with at least 30 yards between the two widest offensive players, accounted for 46% of snaps, while condensed splits made up just 11% of the snaps. And been in every season since, we started to see that number increase, more and more teams using the condensed and compressed sets. So now this leads us to the Saban comment about why he hates going up against Steve Sarkisian. And he said this at SEC Media Days. He said, I kind of always hated playing against Sark in practice for several years, as well as when we played them the past couple of years, because they do such a good job with what I call squeeze splits. We play in this day and age where people take huge splits like Tennessee, which that's a problem too. Players, especially DBs, are not used to playing when you have squeeze splits because you put them in unfamiliar positions, whether it's run support or how they cover. When you're in squeeze splits, how can this guy get to that side of the field quickly, which messes up your pattern matches? So I always hated playing against Texas. And Kirby Smart has got some of the same issues that we had. Damn right. He loves Saban is famous for his pattern match coverages, which is essentially a zone coverage that can become a man coverage because you're waiting on the route combination to declare itself. Once that route declares itself, then you match that receiver in your zone, and that becomes a man coverage because I matched him. That's my man. I'm matched. All right, but with pattern match, because as long as the safety, the guy that's matching the pattern with me, all right, as long as he's seeing the same thing and we have the same rules and we can have this unspoken communication, then he already knows, no, I'm pattern matching the inside cuts from 5 to 10 yards, but I'll let him go if he's going to run and like a over route past 10 yards. If he's going to run it to 20 yards, I'll pass him off to another defender. All right. And I'll match up with another wide receiving threat, or I'll match up with another offensive threat in my zone. So it's basically a zone that can become a man coverage at any time, depending on, not any time, but when the route declares itself. And as long as everybody's seeing the same thing, it works beautifully. What Sark is trying to do is give you a truth that tells you a lie. With these condensed and compressed sets, it's a truth that tells a lie. If you're trying to pattern match, well, first of all, I got my receivers closely clustered together. It's gonna make it tougher to find when the route declares itself. And then he's essentially using route combinations that develop late, so that you have to stay in your zone coverages longer. And then once you stay in zone coverage, it becomes a zone. It's hard to match up. And once you get late into the coverage, well, we can't match. I've become a zone defender, and that's what Sark likes to do. And then he wants to take advantage of whatever that matchup is. If it's zone or if it's you've already matched, he can force you to match a guy, right? If he likes the safety, and in terms of the matchup, he thinks the safety is a weak coverage defender, and he likes him more, then he is very skilled at getting that particular player to match Xavier Worthy or match one of his elite weapons. And that's what also can be a problem with match coverage. It's like, yeah, well, you're going to match, but also if that's the case, and I know the rules of your match coverage, I know when you guys, at what depth you're deciding to pass off these routes in coverage, then I know at what depth I tell my receivers, hey, cut it at this depth, and then the safety will take it. If you cut it at another depth a little bit later, then the corner is actually going to take it. Or if it's an inside cut, then the safety will take you. But if it's an outside cut, the corner's going to take you. Once you learn those rules, then you learn how to violate them. Then you learn, okay, it'll be this safety matching up with me on this route in this combination. That's what Sark's trying to figure out. But either way, my point is, Sark's offense is going to match up well with Kirby Smart's defense because they utilize the same principles and they have the same rules. And I started talking about this last week about the trends I've been studying in the SEC. And these are the types of trends in the SEC that I think are going to help Sark, that why his offense is going to match up well with some of these SEC offenses. His pre-snap motion rates are higher than SEC averages. SEC averages around 34%. He's at around 55%. His usage of bunch formations and condensed sets, squeeze splits, as Nick Saban likes to call it, that's probably a lot higher than the SEC average. If he can showcase those things that SEC defenses aren't accustomed to and are unfamiliar with and haven't been exposed to, there's a really good chance that Sark's offense could pick up right where it left off in Big 12 play. And not because the SEC, is a weak defensive league. No, it's a great defense. You have better defenders, but they're not used to defending those particular concepts at extremely high rates. And I think that's something that, Sark can take advantage of. So there you go. Nick Saban telling you he hates those squeeze splits. And go look at how many. I have to go look at that Alabama game again and go see how many of those big time plays for Texas were with condensed and compressed sets. I remember one. I know one of them was. I remember. I want to say it might have been the Xavier Worthy one, the deep one. But it's just from those sets, because that's Nick Saban telling you, it made our lives hell. It's just really stressful on the defense, and it changes a lot of your rules. And it honestly reveals a lot. It dictates a lot of your rules and what you can do and what you're allowed to do defensively, where your leverage is as a defender, how aggressive you can be, the depth you're going to play at as a defender. Those formations can dictate all that kind of stuff. And that's all Sark needs to know. He's giving him more information about how you have to play a certain coverage and the rules you have to abide by. Once he learns that, he will break those rules. over and over again. All right, come back. We'll get into off the record on the other side. This is a story right out of some it's right out of some comedy. I mean, it really is. But nope, truth is often stranger than fiction. We'll talk about that when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Low and Rod Davis coming back on the home. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis here. Let me tell you about my friends over at Ironworkers Local 42 doing a great job right now with a lot of the great landmarks here in Austin that we hold dear, that make this city so unique and that make it so appealing, like DKR Stadium and the Pennybacker Bridge. Well, now my friends over at Ironworkers Local 42 are hiring over 3,000 people for another big project they're constructing right here in Central Texas. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. So right now is a great time for you to reach out to our friends over at Ironworkers Local 42, whether you need an exciting employment opportunity, or whether you're looking for a refreshing career change, or you want a new challenge, or you simply want to feel valued by your employer. You can become a valued member of this prestigious organization, Ironworkers Local 42. And right now is the best time to do it. Head on over to Ironworkers Local 42's website, ironworkers482.org, and you can apply for all of their different positions there. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time for Off the Record. So after the failed assassination attempt on President Trump, 50 Cent performed his famous song Many Men, which is about a failed assassination attempt on 50 Cent. It's his story about how he was shot and survived from his album Get Rich or Die Trying. He performed it live in Boston and in front of an altered album cover. Instead of 50 Cent's face, it was President Trump's face. And he performed the song. Everybody went crazy. The moment went viral, of course. And now 50 Cent, based on Kate Sullivan's report, she's a CNN reporter covering Capitol Hill, and she says 50 Cent is indeed in talks with convention officials to appear at the GOP convention. And today I got this report from Double XL Magazine that 50 Cent is currently scheduled to perform at the GOP convention this week. His hit song Many Men trended on social media over the weekend following the assassination attempt of President Trump. And one insider revealed that 50 Cent is going to be performing basically Trump's walk. It's going to be the walkout song for him. At the RNC, that Trump, basically how a boxer kind of comes out and the rapper raps in front of him and he makes an entrance, that basically President Trump's going to make that kind of entrance at the RNC. And they claim Thursday, I believe this is all going down. Yeah, that this is happening. That 50 Cent's going to lead out President Trump to Many Men. Oh, by the way, apparently the streams for Many Men have gone through the roof because of this. Apparently this has become like a pop culture theme after the assassination of President Trump. I don't know if indeed he does perform and is the walkout music for President Trump, then yeah, maybe it is that President Trump and his staff and his circle, they are the ones who are promoting this and pumping it up. But I think it's something that kind of started online. Then 50 Cent embraced it by performing the song and then putting President Trump on the face of the album, or at least on the cover of the album. And now total embrace of 50 Cent's Many Men as their theme song now after President Trump was at least shot at. So this is like a truth to stranger than fiction kind of moment.
Yeah,
like
it's all of America right now. It's every last bit of it. I mean, it's unbelievable.
That is wild. Like a rapper made a song about getting shot at, and now the former president and yes, future president. Let's be honest, it's gonna happen whether y'all like it or not. All right. I mean, we don't talk politics on the show. We just talk competition. But this thing is over. Like it's a done deal.
I don't know if it's over, but it's a lot more over than it was.
It's done. It is done. Like I said, I don't want to get about it is done. Like you ain't got to worry about following it. It's pretty much a done deal. But anyway, my point is for 50 Cent. Now we talk about crossing over and that kind of thing. I don't know if 50 Cent is a Trump supporter or not, but the moment is like a pop culture moment, essentially, for like 50 song Many Men to become like an official song of a presidential candidate. And he's gonna be like walking out to it doing campaign stuff. like walking out. I mean, how's they gonna go over when he's walking out an hour with a Many Men? They gonna love it because right now it's like I said, it's part of the moment. It's unbelievable. There you go. So I don't know. 50 Cent, give him credit or give the internet credit. The internet is undefeated, but they got it done. I thought it was just something the internet was gonna love and accept, but no, this is official. All right, so there you go. That's off the record. All right, we come back. We'll get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets on the other side. We'll also talk about Brandon Ayuk. He wants his cash. He has requested a trade. We'll talk about that. We'll also get into some Texans conversation. CJ Stroud getting high praise. We'll talk about that and play that audio for you. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Low Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a One Artist Wednesday edition of the Rodcast. That's when Patrick, my co-host, the Idealionaire, he dives deep down the rabbit hole into the catalog of one specific artist or a group or a band. And today that group is Queen. So Queen, the focus of One Artist Wednesday. So we appreciate my man Patrick working hard for us there. We also appreciate the work and thought he puts into the topic for the big fat poll of the day, which he can let you know about right now. What's the topic for the big fat poll today, Patrick?
Big fat poll of the day. We asked you yesterday about how many SEC championships you think Texas could win in the next 10 years. And it was 1-3 was the main number, 4-6 went next, then 0, and then 7-9. We have now asked you, since there is another team headed to the SEC with Texas in OU, I thought we'd ask today about how many SEC championships OU football will win in the next 10 years. Right now, the hate is leading 0 at 58%. That people are going strong. And it maybe Brent Venables isn't the guy, and they're going to have a run over the next 10 years, and it'll be a little difficult. And there's rumors about their financial struggles right now, which I think may be a little overstated, but all that maybe, but it's 58% there. 1-3 is 40%, and then a couple votes going for 4-6 and 7-9. But the 7-9 vote, that seems a little optimistic, but
no, I mean, I don't know if people always call them like Broklahoma. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if that's just Longhorn fans just taking shots at them, or if there's actually some substance that people talk about.
I've seen articles, but I don't. It's it's 2024, so you don't really know, and you have to see stuff substantiated. So I can't say for a fact that any of that is true.
Yeah, I said I think it's more just Longhorn fans taking shots at Oklahoma just because Longhorn fans know that they are, in terms of affluence, they have as many donors and boosters with resources, billionaire resources at their disposal as any program in the country. I think for Oklahoma, though, if Brent Venables is not the guy, I don't know if they won't stick with him long. I mean, if he's not the guy, I think Oklahoma will move on pretty quickly. They've done a good job of hiring. What are the odds? I even said this about Coach Pierce, who is no longer with Texas baseball. What are the odds, that they hit it out of the park with 3 coaches in a row? Lincoln Riley with them was great. Obviously now at USC, different conversation altogether. But Bob Stoops, Hall of Fame coach, and Brent Venables now, I mean, what are the odds he's also going to be elite when he is there? Because that's what Lincoln Riley was at Oklahoma. That's what Bob Stoops was when he was there at Oklahoma. So we'll see. But if he doesn't get it done in the next 2 years with all the pressure there is on coaches in the SEC, especially at Oklahoma, especially if Texas is winning, they'll make a move. And if they make a move, they'll go get a big dog. Oklahoma will. At least I think they will. They've been on that Bob Stoops coaching tree so long. I don't know if they'll go away from. I mean, that's where the tree they've been on. They like that tree. They believe that tree fits them. It's been good to them, but maybe they go a different direction if Venables doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, because Bob Stoops is still super involved in the program, so he would, he has got a say in who they're going to hire anyway, or at least he be in the room in the discussion.
No, you want somebody to love you like Bob Stoops loves Oklahoma football.
Yeah,
I mean, he won't even. We all thought that Bob Stoops would coach again. And he did. He just coached at was it XFL or whatever level? Because he left coaching so early. But man, he has been like hands-on involved with that program, not just as a figurehead. He's been like hands-on, helping pick coaches, and been very critical of Lincoln Riley when he left. Now his son played there. But last year, Drake Stoops was there. Was that leading receiver, I believe, on the team, if I'm not mistaken. One of their leading receivers on the team. Yeah, and I always say this is the one. I think the one trump card, if you will, that Bob Stoops had on Mack Brown, because Mack Brown ended up having a Hall of Fame career here at Texas as well, still coaching in North Carolina. Bob Stoops pulled a really unselfish move when he left, because he left Lincoln Riley with a cupboard that was full. Left him with Baker Mayfield. You know what I mean? Like he left at the right time, and it was one of those situations where he wanted to lead the program better than he found it. Mack Brown, God bless Mack, I love him. Mack had a chance to do something similar to that when Nick Saban was reportedly going to be coming in, and boosters and donors had zeroed in on him. And Mac wasn't with that. Mac was a parade or a pine box guy. All right. I want the parade, or you got to ship me out of town. And that's kind of the way Mac went out here. Mac, they had to kick him out of town pretty much. Instead of Mac saying, nah, you know what? I'll leave. I'm good. Let's let this guy take over. And hey, the program will be in a great place. I'll leave it better than I found it. Mac wasn't really, he didn't want to do it with Muschamp. Remember, that's why Muschamp left. Muschamp was the coach in waiting. Mac was like, nah, I'm good. I thought I was going to have a national title. I was going to have 2 national titles by now. I only got 1. I'm going to try to get another one before I leave. Sorry, Will. And then Will Muschamp left. Not saying the program would have been in better shape then. My point is he was not willing to leave the program in a great place unless he was the reason it was in a good place.
Yes.
And that was Mac thinking about himself and not the program. Bob Stoops left. He thought about the program. Mac's like, Bob was like, no. How can I leave Oklahoma in a great good place? Okay, Heisman caliber quarterback. That's good. Lincoln, so your offense will pick up right where it left off. Probably should have left him some more defensive pieces. Should have helped him out there. But Bob Stoops was thinking about the program first. And I love Mac. And Mac's a great human being and a hell of a coach, and a Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame human being. But he was thinking about Mac first and not Texas first at that time. And hey, we're all human, so I ain't blaming him for that. But that's what happened toward Mac, the end of Mac's tenure. Bob Stoops at the end of his tenure, he was like, how can I make Oklahoma better? I just want to leave it in a good place. Mac was like, I want to be in a good place. What about me? And it's like, well, it ain't about you. You're a caretaker. All those guys, they're caretakers. God bless them. They're Mac's representing another program now because they're paying them. All right. And he was representing another program before that when they pay him. And CDC, God bless them, but they're caretakers. They're paid for their loyalty. Fans are not paid for their loyalty. Now players are. It used to be players weren't either. Now players are. So I can't even. Now fans are the only ones who are not paid for their loyalty. Y'all are the only ones left. The players are paid for their loyalty now too. So are the coaches. And that's why the transfer portal is hopping. It's popping.
Yep.
Because if you ain't paying me, I ain't loyal. I got to go. And you know what? I'm happy. I would probably been the same way. But in terms of, that loyalty, Bob Stoops has a just, I don't know. It's just really, you just don't see that type of loyalty very often in major college sports or major sports anywhere anymore. Anyway, random shout out to Bob Stoops. Y'all got me giving shout out to Bob Stoops on the show. All right, let's move on, please. All right, let's get into the Horn headlines and get caught up, get informed, updated, and educated on all the top stories today. Then we'll come back and hit some of these NFL headlines. But first, the Horn headlines with Patrick Davis.
All right, the Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. The MLB All-Star Game took place last night with the American League getting back to its dominant ways after having its 9-year win streak snap last season. Shohei Ohtani gave the NL an early lead with a 3-run homer in the 3rd inning, but the AL answered back in the bottom with a Juan Soto double and a David Price single to tie the game up. The eventual All-Star Game MVP, Jarren Duran, then hit a 2-run homer in the 5th inning to give the American League the lead, and they never looked back. From the Rangers, Marcus Semien got a hit and came around to score in the game, and Kirby Yates pitched a solid 1-2-3 inning with 2 strikeouts in the 8th. In the NBA, the Mavericks announced that Kyrie Irving underwent surgery to repair a broken left hand. Irving suffered the injury while training earlier this month. While Dallas did not give a timetable for his return to basketball activities, there is hope in the organization that he will be able to return by training camp in about 2.5 months. And in the NFL, the Houston Texans rookies and veterans report today to training camp, making them the first team to have all its players in camp ready to start preparing for the upcoming season. The Texans will play the Bears on Thursday, August 1st, in the Hall of Fame game. And that's your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. We appreciate those. Let's get to the Texans, who are the first team to report to training camp, and talk a little bit about them. As a matter of fact, I want to start off with this Chase Daniel sound. He was recently on the podcast talking about his relationship with Case Keenum. He and Case are really close, and he has been open about his, adoration for CJ Stroud and how great he thinks CJ Stroud is. But this time he's talking to someone who's in the quarterback room with CJ Stroud, Case Keenum, and a veteran who's been in the NFL for over a decade now and seen a lot of football. And here is what Case Keenum told Chase Daniel about CJ Stroud's potential.
Case and I go way back. The very first question, we both get off our cars and say, hey, what's up, bro? My first question, I said, dude, tell me about CJ Stroud. And he said, verbatim, he has the chance to be one of, if not the best quarterbacks of all time.
All time.
Yeah, all time. And I said, look, I'm not crowning the guy.
Yeah.
But like, I can see what he meant. And Case is a very straight shooter. He's played for a lot of different teams. But when he said that, my eyes like sort of lit up. I sort of got goosebumps because I'm like, I love watching film. I love breaking down quarterbacks. And I can see what he meant. If CJ Stroud can take that next step this coming year, like they're gonna be tough to beat.
He's right about that. I mean, how could you take a bigger leap than what he did? I mean, his rookie campaign was arguably the greatest rookie season in the history of the NFL. Ended up finishing a fourth overall in yards per attempt, fifth in average depth of target. He was 13th in passing touchdowns, first in touchdown interception ratio. Also led the NFL in passing yards, passer rating. He was 6th, success rate. He was 10th, EPA per dropback. He was 7th, passing first downs. He was 8th. I mean, you name it. CJ Stroud probably had a really impressive showing, or a top 10 rated metric in that category. Led the NFL in passing yards per game and touchdown interception ratio. He is the 4th quarterback to do so in the last 35 years, joining Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and John Elway. Those group of quarterbacks. And I got another random factoid for you about CJ Stroud. I found this one earlier today. I was going to use it for what the facts with the stats, but I forgot about it. How about this? Last season, CJ Stroud became the 8th rookie starting quarterback since 1950 to win a playoff game. 5 of the previous 7 QBs who also won a playoff game their second season. So a lot of people are high on them. And 2 of those, by the way, won a Super Bowl. And that was Russell Wilson and Ben Roethlisberger. But we're not going to Super Bowl yet. But I will say that a lot of people look at, in terms of windows, they look at the Texans as the best franchise in the AFC to challenge the Kansas City Chiefs, just looking at their window, right? Because they just started their 5-year window. No NFL team has won their first Super Bowl outside of the quarterback and head coach who have been together. No quarterback head coach combination has won a Super Bowl together outside of that 5-year window. So if they haven't won it in their first 5 years together, your head coach and your quarterback, odds are against them. There's a precipitous drop in the odds that they're going to be able to win a Super Bowl because nobody has ever really done that. You got to switch up one of those key pieces if you are at the end of that 5-year window. Texans just started theirs. Just got CJ Stroud, just got D'Amico Ryans. They are right at the beginning. So they got 4 more years in this 5-year window. So a lot of people think they are the best challenger to the dynastic run that the Kansas City Chiefs are on. All right, now, but there's no question about it. CJ Stroud right now is considered here. We looked at the Jeremy Fowler survey of scouts and execs and coaches, and they had CJ Stroud as a top 10 quarterback. They had him as the 7th best quarterback. So if the offensive line, which was the most injury riddled in the last 20 years in the NFL, if it improves, Texas is one of the most penalized teams in the NFL. If that improves as well, which we assume it will, D'Amico Ryans now is a head coach who's got some experience on his belt. So some of those growing pains you dealt with last year, they'll be past that. The injuries with the skill positions, Tank Dell, you added Stephon Diggs, you added Joe Mixon. I mean, the sky's the limit for CJ Stroud. There's a reason if you look at the MVP odds right now, he has the shortest MVP odds in the last 15 years for any first or second year player. It's good value with CJ Stroud right now for MVP. So for him and for the Texans who are starting up camp today, a lot of expectations. It will be a way tougher schedule than it was last year. But what if CJ Stroud takes another leap? That's the big what if. If he does, he could be scary good. The question is, can he be the second best quarterback behind Patrick Mahomes? Because right now, that's up for debate. Is it Josh Allen? Is it Joe Burrow? Is it Lamar Jackson? Who's the second best quarterback in the league? Patrick Mahomes is easily the best. Who's the second best quarterback in the league? Can Patrick Mahomes, after next season, join the conversation of those three quarterbacks, second best quarterback in the league, and then firmly supplant those guys and usurp them and become the top of that second tier of quarterbacks? Because Patrick Mahomes is in a tier all by his damn self.
Yeah, and I mean,
and
I think it's there's an easy path, and that's the path to do it is to make the Super Bowl, because that's what Joe Burrow did. Because Joe Burrow, everybody loved and it was doing great, but he when made the Super Bowl, beat Patrick Mahomes, made the Super Bowl. You do that, all of a sudden everybody is on board with you being the second best, because Josh Allen hasn't beaten Patrick Mahomes. No. Lamar Jackson hasn't beaten him. So Joe Burrow is the only one who's done it, but he still couldn't finish the deal. So he doesn't have the Super Bowl ring. So you're clearly still a ways behind Patrick Mahomes right now. But that's where you get in that conversation of who's been to the Super Bowl other than Patrick Mahomes in this run, and who has gotten there in the, who's put in that fight and been able to get in there and beat Mahomes to get there and beat the Chiefs with Spags. I mean, if you want to be real about it, the defense, the Bengals defense was one of Lou Anarumo defense was one of the big reasons that they got past him. And then the Steve Spagnuolo defense is one of the reasons no one's getting past him now. So as much as they're great quarterbacks, you have to have the whole thing. But that's where you can start to believe a little bit more in the Texans that DeMeco Ryans is the head coach, that you may say, okay, maybe this is a defense team, that you have a CJ Stroud who's going to be able to go in there and carry the offense, but the defense will be able to do enough to slow down one of these teams. Now, I mean, they got mollywopped by Baltimore in the playoffs last year. So they're going to have to figure out some things, to improve. Mm-hmm. But that's the path to be considered the number 2 quarterback right now behind Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. I mean, who's beating Patrick Mahomes? Joe Burrow and Tom Brady. See, Tom Brady's taken him out a couple of times. Took him out when he was with the Patriots once, and then took him out, of course, in the Super Bowl when he was with the Bucs. And then there's Joe Burrow. It's not often that guy's losing playoff games when he counts the most. So I'm with you. I think that is the clear path for CJ Stroud to be considered the second best quarterback in this league, and he's got that kind of potential. Chase Daniel think he can even be considered the best quarterback in this league. I can't imagine somebody being considered right now better than Patrick Mahomes. That would be a hell of a conversation if we ever get there. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to ride this wave for the next 7 years or so as the best quarterback in the league. Not even Brady had that distinction.
No,
that he was the best QB in the league for so Patrick Mahomes being considered that for what, since 2018, 2019 maybe?
Yeah, because you would have to, because the conversation was Brady and Manning, right? And then
so Manning's get debate. Then Aaron Rodgers poked his head in, so
we had
Aaron Rodgers in there for a few years. I don't know if we've had a quarterback considered the best quarterback in the league for as long as Patrick Mahomes is going to be there.
And I can tell you how CJ Stroud becomes the best quarterback in the league. It's not going to happen, but I can tell you how it does. Is he wins the next 2 Super Bowls. And if you dethrone the Chiefs and then shut them down the next year, then all of a sudden you're now repeat champions. You're the guy because because recency bias, and you're the guy. So there is a way to do it. Just the odds of that happening are not great.
I am praying that that's the case. But it's like I wonder. That's a great. I mean, Joe Burrow's got that kind of stuff though. You brought him up. Joe Burrow was kind of that guy, or at least considered to be someone who had that kind of upside, but Joe Burrow can't necessarily stay healthy.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have the pieces around him. You just brought it up. Man, Patrick Mahomes got the best GM in the league, arguably, as a GM, best head coach in the league in Andy Reid. Andy Reid's also the best play caller offensively in the league and play designer in the league. Spags is the best defensive coordinator in the league, best tight end in the league, best D tackle now in the league that Aaron Donald's gone. They got a lot of best working on. How many of those are the They had any of them? They had anywhere we say he's the best in the league, period. I don't know if they do. I don't know if they got anybody that you say that. Hell, the Chiefs got like 6 of those guys.
No.
Best QB, best head coach, best DC, best GM, best tight end, best D tackle.
No, I
mean, know what they're doing.
The Bengals maybe. Bengals could end the conversation. Best wide receiver? They're in that conversation.
Justin Jefferson's like, what about me? CJ Lamb's like, what about me?
No, I know, but
like
I'm saying,
Chris Jones
I'm saying in the conversation for Jamar Chase is in that conversation.
But there's no conversation with Travis Kelce.
No, I agree.
No conversation with Patrick Mahomes.
I agree.
No conversation with Spags, in my opinion.
Agree. I don't think there's a conversation with Chris Jones right now.
Nope. I think there's a conversation with Brett Veach. Brett Veach is killing it too.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on all those things. I was trying to give you the best argument.
No, you were making a good point. But like I said, I think that's why, and I'm saying you pointed that out earlier. That's why their dynasty is going to be so unique, and that's why they're so hard to challenge. It's not just because it's not just, if it was just Mahomes, he'd been toppled by now.
Yeah.
If it was just him, it ain't just him.
I mean, they took away all the wide receivers so they could still win because they had defense, so they didn't have to put up 45 points a game.
Yeah, at one point they had the best wide receiver in the league too.
Yeah.
Forget about that. At one point they had that dude too.
They had one of the best DBs last year too. Yeah,
honestly, you're right. We don't talk about him enough. Trent McDuffie?
No, he's talking about Snead, right?
Honestly, I think both of them are pretty damn good. You're right, Snead's good, but the kid they got out of was it at Washington, right? Where he came from, I believe it was. Man, Trent McDuffie, he's a beast.
Yeah.
Trent McDuffie he's the truth. And you're right. Jerry Snead, he's the best bump and run corner in the league.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's the best corner league, but nobody plays.
But he's gone now, right?
Jerry Snead.
He's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. Tennessee, I think.
Yeah.
You know why they let him go? Trent McDuffie.
Yeah.
They're like, no, you good. You can go. We got this other guy. He's a stud. Ready to go. Oh, man. Kansas City just loaded. Anyway, start talking about the Texans and end up talking about Kansas City. But honestly, that shows you how much progress has been made. I mean, before last year, we wouldn't have dreamed of having this conversation.
No, we wouldn't be
talking
talking about
a stupid conversation to have.
We would not. I mean, that's before the draft last season. It was, man, we hope they don't screw this up.
Pretty much.
Hope they don't screw this up. And then I thrilled with what they did in the draft last year. They took a chance. They went for it. It ended up paying off.
Oh, home runs. Grand slam home runs, actually. Honestly. But honestly, I said it before the draft. Nick Caserio's been pretty good at drafting.
He has. But it's not the draft. It's the trade.
But that was a big trade. Yeah.
Because without the trade, you don't get on both sides of the ball. You hire DeMeco Ryans. There's a decent chance you don't take C.J. Stroud. You just take Will Anderson because you have a defensive head coach. You say, we're not sure C.J.'s the guy. I don't know. We don't know what the conversations were in that room of is C.J. the guy, and we know we can't get the pick unless we take him, and Will's going to be we don't know. It could have been that. So to make the trade, to go all in, to really push the envelope that quickly, that is where you said, okay, they've tanked heavily for 2 years.
Oh, yeah. Thought they screwed up the tank
twice.
I was like, they messed up the tank.
They screwed up the tank twice.
But turns out, hey, everything happens for a reason.
It all worked out.
Hey, we should be loving Lovie Smith, man. Lovie Smith. Everybody was mad at Lovie at first. Now Texas fans was like, God bless Lovie. God bless Lovie. Lovie, your team played with some pride. Screwed up the tank, but you still got your guy.
Hey, the Bears love him too. The Bears love him too.
The Bear, you're right. Yeah, you're right. It worked out for everybody except the Panthers.
Everyone but the Panthers. But they got Canales now. They got the quarterback whisperer.
You know what? If he turns around Bryce Young, we might need to start thinking about Dave Canales in a different way as well.
Yeah, no, we'll think about it differently. And he'll get fired when he loses 2 games in a row because Carolina's crazy.
But he'll get paid. You know, that owner, he's giving guaranteed contracts. He's still paying Matt Rule and still paying Frank Reich and now paying another coach. So you should get your money. Okay, speaking of money, Brandon Ayuk wants his money. So when we come back, we'll discuss that. We'll also have Raj Ram today. Matter of fact, we'll make that part of the Raj Ram today. Also talk about the Longhorn, who may be the most impactful player by the end of one of the most impactful offensive players that we don't talk enough about. And we'll get into that. He's also got quite the gripe, I believe, with the new EA Sports college football video game. We'll dive into that a little bit when we get into Rod's rant of the day on the other side. So we got a couple of items that we'll dive into coming right back on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis. Coming back on the Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about Dr. Greg Eckert and his fantastic team. First off, first time I went to Dr. Eckert's office, this is a true story. I walk in there. I'm already a little paranoid about going to the dentist. And I walk in there, and there's a lady, and she's crying. As soon as I walk in, I thought, see, this is where I thought people have pain at the dentist's office. This is what I thought would happen at the dentist's office: tears and sadness. And I was wrong. Actually, she told us that Dr. Eckert and his team had given her her dream smile, and she saw it in the mirror for the first time and was brought to tears. Tears of joy at the dentist's office, folks. That's what you have at Dr. Eckert's office, because he is trying to change people's lives for the better. He understands that the quality of your smile can truly change the life and affect the quality of your life. And he understands that a confident smile can truly change your life, and he wants to change your life for the better. And he has the ability to give you a brand new smile in just one day, permanently secure your dental implants. No time spent without teeth. You'll get temporary fixtures first until they can complete your permanent smile. And you'll smile again with confidence and eat freely without pain or discomfort. It's a lifelike permanent solution. So some of you have been told that you need dentures, and some of you already have dentures out there. Well, you can call Dr. Eckert's Late to learn about this revolutionary alternative to dentures. It's a complimentary consultation, so you got nothing to lose, but you have so much to gain. So give them a call today, 512-345-3166. That's 512-345-3166. But it's not just about getting a brand new smile. I go there for all of my dental needs, just for a checkup or for a cleaning or a filling, no matter what it is: general dentistry, teeth whitening, dentures, porcelain crowns, veneers, dental implants, full mouth reconstruction, even root canal therapy, whatever it takes to ensure you're getting the best quality dental care available. That's what Dr. Eckert and his team are all about. When anybody asks me, do I know a good dentist? I say, no, I don't know a good dentist. I know a great dentist. I know the best dentist is Dr. Greg Eckert and his all-star team. So give him a call if you need anything, no matter if it's something serious or something pretty minor or routine. Give him a call, 512-345-3166. You're in great hands with Dr. Eckert. DrEckert.com, DrUeckert.com. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to Rod's round the day. It'll be more of a smorgasbord. We're going to throw a lot of different topics in there. First part of this rant is about the new EA Sports college football video game, and it hasn't been widely released yet. I believe the 19th is when it'll be available to everyone. They've had the pre-release. So there's a pre-release, and you could pay extra money for the pre-release. I believe it's like depending on what your console is, between like $120 and $150 for the pre-release, whatever it may be. So that's what you've been seeing online, people leaking out different snippets and the ratings and stuff. That's come from the pre-release, and they came out yesterday. So just based on the pre-release numbers, And some of this came from Barstool Sports. The pre-release numbers, the online tally was around 713,000 folks who registered online for the pre-release of the video game. Like I said, it's probably between $120 to $150 to purchase the video game online for the pre-release. If you take those numbers and you just do a rough estimate, let's just say 700,000 times 100. And like I said, it was 120, 150. I'm not doing the exact math. We're just doing radio math here. All right. That's $70 million for the pre-release. I was told never to do detailed math on there. Do the loose math. Keep a lot of zeros. And, you know, don't dig deep into it. Anytime you get decimals in there, you're screwed. So roughly, they made a little over $70 million, guys, for the pre-release. That's not the release to everybody. Everybody didn't have access to it. They'll have that on the 19th. And by the way, even if everybody that signed up for the pre-release, I'm sure they weren't planning it all at the same time. Just the little raw number, they had 713,974 people that were that had signed up for the pre-release at that time. That's $70 million. And remember, this makes perfect sense because remember, EA Sports was forced to disband the game because of the Ed O'Bannon case. They told the NCAA, we know we have to pay the players all for their name, image, and likeness, all of them, which they're doing now, $600, I believe, a piece, and they get a free video game. And they said it'll probably mean it wipes out our profit margin. We probably won't make a lot of profit. Hell, we may even take a loss on it. But it's such a cultural phenomenon for us. It's so popular for us. It's worth doing. It's worth doing because the fans love it. We get more. There's more positive feedback for us. There is more free media for us for this game, even though it cuts into our profit. You have to pay the players for name, image, and likeness. That we'll do it anyway. NCAA said no. We still won't allow it. Even though you're going to pay the players and you said you will handle paying it and we have to do nothing at all. All we have to do is just approve it. And you'll take care of the rest. The NCAA said no. And this is why EA Sports wanted to do it. Because they know how popular it is. Now you got generations, old folks like me, who want to play the game, talking about playing the game. And you got the younger generation who have not had access to it. And now these two generations hungry, thirsty for this game and for this fellowship, if you will, because they play online with each other. $70 million roughly in the first 24 hours of the game.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I saw a thing.
That's crazy.
It was talking about what Patrick Mahomes is going to bring to camp. And he said he's bringing a TV and a gaming system so he can play Madden or play NCAA 25.
So you can play the game. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
There's some people that say it's gonna be way more popular than the Madden, just because you have more people.
Oh
yeah, because NFL fans. The NFL is the number one TV show in America. It is, but a lot of those fans are more adult fans. You spend a lot of money. Think about in college, you're indoctrinated as a college football fan. Most of y'all early, not for me because my dad didn't go to college, so I wasn't. So, but if you're a legacy and you're a college football fan, you start programming your kids pretty early. Well, and you don't. In the NFL, it's just a little different because from what I understand, the NFL is a league with, it has a different demographic, right? A different demo. And then the legacies that you get, the family legacies, the lineage you get, the tradition, the history you get with college football, or really, college football. College basketball, I guess, has some of that too.
No, and I mean, you also throw in the fact of you could own the old Madden or 2 years ago Madden and still play it.
You got to buy all these.
You have to have to play the old game. You have to have a gaming system that you keep around solely for playing that one game. Because it's like 4 or 5 gaming systems ago that game, the last time it came out.
No, you're right.
And I know people that do.
Yeah.
Like I know people that have that.
Kevin Dunn actually used to keep it. Last time I talked to KD, he had his old system. He would play college football, like the 2014 version or whatever it was, the last one.
Yeah.
So he's one of those people. No, I'm with you. That's even more so. I'm giving you the rough estimates. They got more. I mean, when those numbers come out about the money that was made, the revenue that they created just from this new video game, it's going to be astounding. Like it's just going to be mind blowing. And Patrick's right. Now everybody's got to buy it. The old generation and the new generation, everybody's going to purchase it. And I think ultimately, I can't wait to see these the dynasty leagues and stuff that pop up. Like I said, the game isn't officially out yet. It'll be out on the 19th. This is just the numbers from the pre-release of it. So wildly popular, and the players are doing all the promotion for it too. I think because everybody's really excited about it. So you got all the players that are on it, and you got the NFL players, as Patrick mentioned, Patrick Mahomes. He's getting in on it too. So good stuff there from. And by the way, speaking of video game, I think one player has a huge. One player has a huge complaint for Texas about their numbers and their ratings in the video games, and that will probably be Jaden Blue. Based on Nash's at Nash Talk Texas, does a great job covering Texas. Based on his research, he tweeted out there are 42 running backs faster than Jaden Blue in the game. Jaden Blue was clocked at 22.3 miles per hour last season. That was the fastest time for any running back in college football by Real Analytics. He was coming out of high school, was a track star coming out of high school. His speed on the game is a 93, which is nothing to be ashamed of, but it's a lot of guys with 93 speed on the Texas team. And there are a lot of running backs out there with 93 speed and faster than Jaden Blue. But if you look at the Real Analytics and they track in-game ball carriers, so we're talking about true football speed, they had him as the fastest running back in college football last year. So I think the game, they might need to upgrade him. I know they'll give updates all throughout the season. Jaden Blue needs an update. Averaged over 6. He actually led all the running backs in yards per carry. If you're looking at running backs who had at least 30 rushes last season, Keelan Robinson averaged some absurd, I think, double-digit yards per rush, but he only had like 12, 13 rushes on the season. So Keelan Robinson was very boutique. They want to use Jaden Blue more in their base sets and more of their base staples. They don't want him just to be a perimeter screen runner, a jet sweep guy, someone that can hurt you as a speed merchant or someone who can be weaponized on the outside. They would like him to be also someone who can break tackles, execute interior runs, and do what he does on the outside on the perimeter, break that tackle, but this time break an arm tackle of a defensive lineman as opposed to a defensive back. And be able still to get those explosive plays, be able to do it via interior runs. That way you're not so predictable, right? If Jaden Blue's in there, a lot of teams, I'm sure, will become focused on securing the edge. They'll become focused on neutralizing the jet sweep. What about him in the passing game as a receiver? And then, I think for Texas, it makes you ultimately less effective because some teams are going to be, they're going to be pretty good at being able to neutralize him as a threat just in those 2 or 3 ways you were using him last season. Jet sweep, off the tackle runs and outside the tackle runs, screen game, and then running that wheel route they ran against Washington over and over again. And they started to add to it. They ran that Texas route, which is he fakes like he's going to run a real right, comes back in and runs a slant. They did that in the spring game. You'll see some more of that. But I think by the end of the season, we could be talking about one of the most explosive elements, arguably the most explosive player on the offense beating Jaden Blue. It's very possible. If he proves that Sark can trust him with some of those interior runs, that means you got to hold on to the football, but also prove you can break tackles and, get positive yardage with some of those power runs and prove that he can be a power back as well as a speed back. But between your pony package and between empty sets and between, the red package, which I think you're going to see 4 wide receivers on the field, 1 back, 0 tight ends, he can be a matchup nightmare, spreading teams out, getting him matched up on a linebacker, presenting power personnel packages, and then pivoting to play action pass principles or some empty sets and spread principles. Him on a linebacker is money. And I think you can go vertically down the field. I mean, that's those wheel routes shown that he can catch over the shoulder catches. Him running that slant Texas route in the spring game shows you there's also some intermediate routes that he can run, not just some of the flare routes by running backs or some of the check down routes. So Jaden Blue, with somebody we're not talking enough about. He's naturally explosive, but I think in this offense with Sark, if he proves himself and he gets, because Sark doesn't want a featured back. He doesn't want one back like CJ Baxter to carry too much of the load. Not saying he doesn't want a 1,000-yard back. That's different. He does want a guy that becomes a 1,000-yard back, but he definitely wants to share some of and shoulder some of the responsibility of being that lead back. And he's shown that over time. Rojo Bijan's a good example of that. Obviously, Jonathan Brooks, and then you had CJ Baxter, who won the job over Jonathan Brooks. And now you have Jaden Blue and Cedric Baxter. So there's definitely room for two. And I think Jaden Blue could be in store for a really, really big season. All right, another story here I want to get to. Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is requesting a trade from the 49ers. This is a really messy negotiation happening with the 49ers. So he's requested a trade. That's the latest. Remember, they made him an offer. Reportedly, the offer that the 49ers made him was $26 million per year. And this was months ago. They made him an offer of $26 million per year. Problem with that is now yesterday's price is not today's price. Now you have number 2 receivers making more than $26 million per year. Hell, you got 4 receivers making $30 million per year. And remember, Brandon Ayuk reportedly wants Amon-Ra St. Brown money. That's $30 million a year. But hell, you got Devontae Smith, you got Jalen Waddle, not even the top highest paid receivers on their team, because they're not the number 1 receivers on their team. They're number 2s, and they're making more than 26. They're making, around $26 million or more. So that now changes the entire conversation because of wide receiver inflation. We know that the 49ers, they also allowed him to seek a trade. They allowed him to seek a trade before the draft. That didn't work out. We also know the 49ers that they told the Pittsburgh Steelers that he was not available. Brandon Ayuk was not available for a trade when they were inquiring about Brandon Ayuk. So the 49ers have been all over the place. I don't know if they're going to offer him what market value is now. So requesting a trade, remember, he's not demanding a trade. So he's not at demand a trade yet. He's at request a trade right now. And he's not going to their mandatory camps or the mandatory mini camp. And I'm sure he's not going to show up at mandatory training camp without a new deal. You know how I feel about that. Don't hold out, hold in, go to training camp, just don't practice. Go to, you can go to meetings, I guess, or maybe you don't want to go to meetings. I think you can go there, just do everything except practice. And I think it's more annoying to the organization, actually, and it makes you look good in front of the fans. But I don't think he cares about that, because I don't know if he likes the organization or even wants to be there anymore. He's made that known. He's made his disdain public via social media multiple times. And he has even stated that the 49ers told him they don't want him. And I don't know exactly what they said, but he has stated that they said they don't want him. But I don't know if they can trade him right now, because I'm not sure if a team is going to want to pay the price tag that he is asking for. So it's $30-something million a year you got to pay for him. Washington right now seems like the most ideal place. Former teammate Jaden Daniels is now the starting quarterback there. They were teammates at Arizona State together, and he has posted several things on social media with Jaden Daniels. Maybe they would be willing to pay that price tag and also give up whatever the draft capital or players in a trade for Brandon Ayuk, who's still on his rookie deal, the option year of his rookie deal. Second team All-Pro last year. He's going to make $14 million this year. Remember, the 49ers getting ready for this potential situation, trying to be proactive. They drafted a wide receiver in the first round, Ricky Pearsall, who is now on the non-football injury list to start the season, whatever that means. Don't forget, Deebo Samuel also publicly requested a trade, and everybody thought that was going to end up the fit with the Shan there. It did not. He got his new deal, and Deebo was one of the highest paid receivers in the NFL at the time. So I'm not sure what the 49ers are going to do. You can't afford to regress. You are Super Bowl or bust right now in terms of your championship window, and you couldn't beat the Kansas City Chiefs with Brandon Ayuk. I don't know if you got a shot at beating them without Brandon Ayuk, because he is your man beater. He's the guy on the outside that really, when teams are preoccupied with trying to game plan for the machine of multiplicity that Shano presents to you because of all the movable chess pieces, Kyle Juszczyk, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and Christian McCaffrey. Once you game plan to stop all those guys, it takes so much of your resources, and so much of your game planning is devised to stop those threats, because they can hurt you from different places on the field. Brandon Ayuk usually gets a lot of man coverage. It just works out that way. It's like he doesn't move around. He's not a guy that goes in the backfield like Debo and Christian McCaffrey and then moves out to the slot and out wide like a Kittle, or you put in the flex, or you put him in the slot, or put him in line. And same thing with Juszczyk. He's one of the only skill positions that is not a movable chess piece, so you know where he's going to be. So you put a man on him and you say, you're in man-to-man. We might zone up the rest of the damn formation, but we'll man up Brandon. And if you get coverage help, it'll be late in coverage, like safety help late and deep. And that's what you get a lot with Brandon Ayuk. And that's why Brandon Ayuk's stats, he kills it. Average depth of target, 3rd. Contested catch percentage, 4th. Yards per route run, 3rd. Yards per reception, 2nd. 20-plus yard receptions, 3rd. Wide receiver rating, 2nd. And he's a 2nd team All-Pro. If you go look at first downs per route run, Brandon Ayuk is 2nd behind Tyreek Hill. He's a man beater. He really, and he does it consistently. He's one of the best in the NFL, and that is crucial to Shannon's system. So Shannon's going to bring in another wide receiver, and I think Ricky Pearsall was that plan. He's got to know, guarantee that guy's going to be able to beat man-to-man coverage consistently. Because if he can't, then the system, it doesn't fall apart, but it's a lot less lethal. It's a lot less effective. So we'll see. I don't know how they get around this. They can franchise tag him potentially. Maybe that's a route they could go with something like that with Brandon Ayuk. Not really sure what they're going to do, but it's something that you got to, if you're the 49ers, I think it's something you got to figure out here pretty soon, because Brandon Ayuk, he's unhappy. He didn't want to be there. Now he's going to play because he wants his money. But for the chemistry of the locker room, you got a quarterback, Brock Purdy, in there. You don't want some volatile, unhappy player in there who's kind of sucking the life force out of the team, who's an energy vampire. And that's what Ayuk can become. He's already doing it on social media. So we'll see how they resolve that situation. All right, we come back. We'll have Who Said That? That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world. And based on the context clues or based on the familiarity of the voice, we're supposed to be able to identify and recall who said that. We'll have that when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a One Artist Wednesday. That's when my co-host, the Idillionaire Patrick Davis, goes deep down the rabbit hole into the catalog of one specific artist or a group or a band. And today, that band is Queen. Got some nice stadium anthems right here. And this is definitely one of the best. Appreciate my man Patrick hooking us up on a One Artist Wednesday. Also, he hooks us up for the topic for the Big Fat Poll. There, you can go check that out. He wants to know from you how many SEC championships will Oklahoma win in the next 10 years. Right now, 57% of y'all say 0. Goose egg. I got more respect for the Seminoles than that, so I picked 1 to 3. But you can go check that out at the Horn ATX on the X account there as well. All right, time to get to Who Said That. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio, and based on the audio that's played, based on the familiarity of the voice, or sometimes the context clues within audio, hopefully you can identify and recall who said that.
I mean, it shouldn't be a penalty anyways. You know, everybody has a hand signal. If you let a hand signal affect you and affect the game, maybe you shouldn't be there. So, I mean, allowing us to throw the horns down, that's cool and all. But, I mean, if it can't be a part of the game, then, I mean, it's pretty soft.
Ooh, Oklahoma DB Billy Bowman talking about the horns down. And you know what, Billy Bowman? All Longhorn fans agree with you.
Yeah. The one thing is the semantics that we'll get in on this is everyone keeps referring to it like it's a pot. Like they'll be like, it's like the Gator Chomp. Well, no, the Gator Chomp's like the horns up. And all those other hands are like the horns up. The horns down is effectively not, you're taunting somebody else. So it is a difference. I also agree it shouldn't be a problem, but stop pretending that it's the same thing. Because otherwise what you're saying is, no, our hand signal is your hand signal upside down, which at that case, you're the little one because you had to steal ours. So I don't mind it either way. I just, that narrative that it's like, no, these guys, it's just another hand signal. Like, no, it's like the middle finger because it's a hand signal, but it means something derogatory as opposed to everything else that is a positive. I like my team. I have pride in my team. Yeah, do that all day long. But if you're like, your team sucks, it's not quite the same thing.
No, it's by design of the hand symbol, like the horns down. It is a taunt. Like, there are other hand signs, and they're putting it into the same category. Where like, oh, it's a hand sign. It's like, yes, it is a hand sign, but it is a hand sign and also a taunt. Yeah, because it is our hand sign turned upside down. So yes, it is a hand sign, and it should only be, you know, penalized if it's taunting or something like that, or if it's, you know, done disrespectfully toward the opponent or the other sideline. But don't mistake it by its, you know, just basically by definition, I guess you could say, it is the horns down. It is a taunt and an insult. That's exactly the point of it. Yeah. Yes. No, I just laugh because they're like, everyone has a hand sign. Like, everyone has a negative one. Yes, I don't think they do. Yeah, but Longhorn, I don't think Longhorn fans care about that anymore. No, we don't care. No, and we don't care. About no, I don't. But you're right, it's not like it is unique in that aspect. That no other hand sign. Don't say it's like the Gator Chomp. The Gator Chomp's a positive. That's like the Gator Chomp is like the horns up. Yes, I agree. If you can somehow find some way to blasphemously disrespect the Gator Chomp, then that's how it would be. I don't know how you do that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hey, Florida's not good enough for me to care. Yeah, exactly. I don't know how you do that, but that would be the same thing. All right, thanks, Patrick, for all you do. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We're talking about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. And until next time, peace and hook 'em.